was getting all my stuff ready, and I'm like, well, I might as well jam out a little bit. I was tired from yesterday.
I had to like use your hyperlink and get the hyperlink and use the numbers to put your password in, which was like 20 characteristics. So just
why don't you just cut and paste?
I tried doing it, but when I linked it over to his laptop, it wasn't working. I tried sending it to his Facebook Messenger so I could link it up. Anyways, whatever, I did it.
Whatever. We got it done now, right? Finally, after how much time we've been trying to do this? Like 6 months?
Yeah, kind of.
It seems like it. Well, let's
The world was coming to an end, no big deal.
What's that?
The world was only coming to an end.
Yeah, we could have just ended it at any time, but you know what? Let's get this party started right now. And we're back. Here I am, Fly Navarro with the No BS World Tour. That's right, coming to you on a new weekend edition. Very new for me. Today, I am joined by Captain Zach and Captain Virginia, all the way from Northern California. How are you guys today?
Excellent. Perfect.
Doing well.
All right. I got everything right there, correct? Captain Zach and Captain Virginia.
Yeah,
right. Listen, when I get all excited and I start yapping, I could throw on a wrong name. Every once in a while, I'll even give myself the wrong name. So,
blocked me, unfortunately.
What's that?
It happens to me quite often, actually.
It happens.
She has a thing because she doesn't really, I don't know, when you think the name Virginia, you're thinking kind of like an old Southern woman, and she doesn't really look like that. So on the boat, people are like, oh, hey, Vanessa, or hey, Veronica.
Veronica.
Like, you know, the funny part is I know it's Virginia, but I can't call her Virginia. She's in my phone as Unforgettable Virginia.
Oh, God.
I have her in just by her Instagram handle. That's how I remember.
Yeah, that works, right? It makes you remember, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why for a second I had to think about it, because I know it starts with a V, but I keep wanting to use you. And yeah, I'm completely discombobulated. Just totally a mess. So it took me a second to get it all going right. So before we get this thing completely started, you guys popped open some nice cider. Can I ask, is that like a local brew cider?
It is. It's from Sonoma County.
Golden State Cider. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the microbrewery.
This, all I know about it is I work in Sonoma County, so they were telling me about it at work one day, and then I tried it one day because I like trying local breweries. I like to support that, you know, and when they spend that extra time with their drinks, I really can tell the difference. So this one has 6.3%, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's dry. It's delicious.
Perfect. What about you, Zach?
Just drink whatever she drinks.
Whatever she gives you. Well, I don't know if you know.
What she likes, you know.
This is a perfect 2021 model, but it's a reusable bottle. We have the full 5-gallon jug that I just keep refilling because no matter how much smart I have, it's not helping. It's
my daughter Karina, and during high school, she did a presentation about smart water, and she was like, oh, it's good for this and that, hangovers, all these things. And at the end of it, she does a jump in the air and clicks her heels and goes, smart water for all your dumb needs.
Well, it's so funny because there's it's not even a restaurant, it's kind of a kiosk. It's a Cuban food kiosk down in Key West. And off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think it's called Coffee Queen or Cuban Queen. I can't remember the exact name, but what I do remember, there's a sign right outside as you order. It says Cuban coffee, making people do dumb shit faster. And I love it because being Cuban and being that I drink Cuban coffee every day, that's the story of my life. I've been doing dumb shit faster for as long as we all can remember.
Exactly.
So you guys are from Northern California.
Yes.
Can you tell everybody exactly where in Northern California you are? Or even for myself, I know where you guys keep your boat, but I don't know exactly. Let everybody know where you guys are from.
So we are from the San Francisco Bay Area, and a portion of our season is spent in the San Francisco Bay and outside the Golden Gate of San Francisco. We are ported in the port of San Francisco right on Fisherman's Wharf. We do that from the months of, I'd say, June-ish to October, and that's our saltwater season. And then we move ports to Pittsburgh, California to do what we love to do most, which is fishing for white sturgeon.
Out the Delta. And in the saltwater season, we do our king salmon along the California coast, rock cod. We do halibut outside too, but we also do it in the bay. Inside we have striped bass, live bait, drifting live anchovies, and we also have white sea bass.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Now, how long have you guys had this charter boat?
That's a good story.
Oh, please don't tell me this is a loaded question. Not for a Sunday, man. Not for a Sunday.
It's kind of a fun story, actually.
Okay, perfect. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like how we first met. We met during sturgeon time of year, and I used to be into fishing a lot of tournaments and derbies locally for sturgeon. It's kind of, like it was like our big Super Bowl to have sturgeon derbies and that kind of thing. And I was doing that with a friend. We were pre-fishing, and normally during a good day of sturgeon fishing, 2 to 4 is a really good day. We were pre-fishing and we caught 26 legal and very oversized fish. So we were feeling pretty good about our chances. And then it was, I think we put the gear away, or like the next day was the derby. And then my buddy calls me up and he goes, I got this chick named Virginia. She keeps calling. She wants to fish the derby with us tomorrow. And I was like, dude, I'm like, negative. Like, no. I was like, I wouldn't even have a dude I don't know come fish the derby with me, much less a chick. And I know that sounds terrible, but that's just what I said. And he was like, man, she keeps bugging me. And I was like, all right, you know what? I go, why don't you just have her call me? And I figured I said that hoping that she wouldn't, like she'd be intimidated. Literally like 3 minutes later, like the phone rings. Hi, my name's Virginia. I was like, oh my God, dude. And I couldn't get rid of her. And so I was like, okay, I raised 3 kids. 2 of them were daughters. And I was just like, if you're going to come out and fish, you're going to pay your money to be on the boat, fish this derby. I'm from a football background. If you're going to make mistakes, make them at full speed. There's a lot of dudes that are pretty salty out here, but don't get intimidated. Come out here, do your best or whatever. And she did pretty well, at the end of the, go ahead.
No, listen, I don't want to interrupt your story, but I have to admit, and for those that are ending up hearing this podcast when it's audio only, I cannot describe the eye rolls coming from Virginia as you're telling this story, which were so great. I'm watching the whole thing, and she's like, don't forget that part. Oh, yeah, you got it. All right, you didn't forget that part. All right. Oh my God. Yeah. I can't believe he's telling that part. And all from her eyes. Never said a word. Never said a word.
No, I mean, it's a fully loaded question when you ask us how we started, because we first met in kind of an unconventional way. And then we ended up fishing all the time together. He was teaching me how to sturgeon fish. I had been fishing on the shore for a while and I wasn't doing so well. And I felt like there had to be a better way. So when my friend told me he was going on a derby, and that they catch hella fish, I was like, really? Let me come. I want to come, and he's like, oh no, you can't. I mean, for months he told me no, until I just asked the last time. I'm like, just let me come. I really want to go. It's not for clout. It's not for anything. I really want to learn. I want to be there. I want to experience this that you speak of. So we went out and fishing that day, and it really was an incredible experience. I had, I've done a little bit of saltwater fishing and traveled a little bit for fishing, but I had never experienced anything like that. Back-to-back oversized fish. I mean, they're big and they fight hard and they stay in the water column and they jump in the sky. They do all kinds of different things. So when that happened and we started fishing together all the time, I saw him in a career field that, it was a pretty emotionally draining. And I told him, I said, I really feel like you're meant to do this. And I promised to back you and be there. And I really think we could do this. We both love to fish. We're hard workers. We're fun to fish with. And we're pretty darn good sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's fun, right? Isn't this all about fun anyway?
That's where people make the biggest mistake is, they put a goal on fishing of I need to catch this before it's good, or I need to catch 5 fish, or I need to catch one that's 100 pounds or 200 pounds. But what they forget is that's catching. Fishing is the time that you spend with your friends and family and the people you get to meet through the industry. And now that we have all this great technology with social media, it's literally made this world completely small. It's made it so much easier. I've been doing this now for 30 years. And I was just somewhere recently and people were talking about, man, you guys just all know each other. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you go different places, but you're all fishermen. And
Yeah.
the boats may change, the owners of the boats may change, but the fishermen are always the same. We love to go fishing. We'll just find a different place to go fishing.
Right.
So, and that's how this fraternity, this family of fishing evolves around the world.
Definitely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Shout out to Jared of Yakima Fishing. He makes a lot of stuff. I guess that's the home of the Rooster Tail. And I remember we start working together, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just really interested in working with you guys." And he goes, "I love it. It always looks so fun on your boat." And he goes, "You know what? At the end of the day, we sell fun, you know." And I try to tell people that all the time. Like, don't be concerned with the boat next to you. I mean, if they caught 7 and we caught 5, does that mean we had a crappy day and they had a good day? No, it's all about the people you're with and the times that you're having on the water, you know.
Absolutely.
Now, I agree 100% with what you're saying, but I also remember me at 23 years old that I would get mad.
Yeah.
I would get mad. Where if somebody caught more fish than me one day, and I say, well, if you got me one day, I'm going to beat you 2.
Yeah.
But I definitely, I still go out with that competitive edge every day, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
Right.
Absolutely.
I come back and did we have a good time? And I know I was speaking with somebody last week where what we were talking about was here on the East Coast, we got a couple big money tournaments, and I haven't fished them in years. Not that I don't get invited, but I end up usually turning them down to go fishing somewhere where people have never done, you know, chase blue marlins or chase something.
Yeah.
And instead of fishing for $4 or $5 million in a tournament, why don't you go with somebody that's never seen a fish?
Right.
And suddenly that first fish is worth $4 or $5 million to somebody's face. You look at the look on their face and it's like, oh yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah, you start off when you're young and you have all these fantasies, and I don't know much about marlin, but you know, maybe it's a 500 pounder is your first goal, maybe it's a grander or something like that. But once you achieve these goals, the next step is kind of, if you're a giver, you know, it's like there's nothing better than to see somebody else do it. Like I remember, like I was with Virginia one time on the boat, and this guy landed a really big salmon, and he was an older guy, and Virginia goes nuts, dude. I mean, she hops up and down, you know, making noises I can't even make. And this guy was like, he's like, really? He goes, come on, Virginia. I know you've seen probably hundreds or maybe thousands of fish caught like this. And she goes, that's true, but I've never seen you do it, you know? So.
And that's exactly it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head on that one.
So impressed by it, you know, their emotions and all of that. I love being a part of people's first, because I know what my first felt like, you know.
That's the whole thing. They're trusting us to walk them through that first one.
Mhm.
And again, it could be different because I've never officially fished for sturgeon. I have caught one before, which is a whole nother story, and we can tell in about 5 minutes. But it's one of those things, these people are trusting us to put them on the fish and then walk them through it. And I know with billfish, when I do it, people sometimes they're so nervous. You start looking at their knuckles, they're holding on to the rod so tight. And it's like, hey, take a deep breath. That fish it's not going nowhere. You hooked them. Now take a breath. Now watch it jump. Yeah. Take a deep breath. Enjoy the moment, because it's going to be over before you know it. Yeah. So take the time, look at the fish jump, and pay attention to what your drag is doing, and you get to walk them through it. So I think it's like you said, you've never seen them do it, and that's what you get to do and experience it with them.
I try to take a lot of the pressure off the clients. I tell them that, you know, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. When you get all in the mix and you're up to bat and you're doing it, just don't feel any pressure at all, because ultimately, like, charter fishing is a little different than maybe, you know, fishing in a tournament or something like that. I mean, we're highly competitive. We want to make the most out of every opportunity. But I always tell them, I'm not here for my best day. I'm here for your best day.
Absolutely.
So.
Exactly.
I think it's important, Fly, because I've traveled all over. I've fished with different captains from different states and different fisheries. And the single most thing I feel that's influential that a lot of captains overlook is the fact that you don't know what kind of client is on that boat that day. And you don't know if you're molding a person that might be a lifetime client for you.
Exactly.
So, or fishermen, you know, maybe this is their first time with their dad and they're not really fishermen. They're not really into it. And all of a sudden they go out with their dad. It's the best day ever. The best crew made them feel good. They made a mistake. They built up from that. All of that is coaching. All of that is being their cheerleader, and all of it is a really good business plan.
Yeah. I had a guy that I met through me teaching Marling University. And little by little, we started doing 7 or 8 trips a year. Hey, I want to catch, this is what I want to catch this next month. Where should we go? And give him the options. And we, like I said, we do 7 or 8 trips a year. He's bought a boat. He lives on the West Coast. He's got 6 children, which is unimaginable to me. Yeah, and
Fly. Listen to the show. I know you don't have any kids, man. So I know what you're talking.
I don't get. Listen, I'm the world's greatest Uncle Fly. I got so many kids that call me Uncle Fly, and I love it. But you know, he has 6 kids. 2 of them are girls and 4 boys, and he's got them all fishing now.
Oh,
and
cool.
he just fished his first tournament on his own boat, which just so happened to be a tournament that I was putting on in the Bahamas. And while he was pre-fishing, he had all 6 of his kids in there running the cockpit. He had,
Awesome.
I had taught him, he had taught his kids, and now he was just running the boat. And they range from 15 all the way down to like 4. And they're rigging ballyhoos, they're putting
that's so
out,
cool.
they're shagging weed. But you look at that, like you said, it's a great business plan because, and I'm a little skeptical in using the word business. It is a great business plan, but it's more than just business. It is how to build relationships.
Right.
It's how to build relationships and build off of that. And that's what our industry is all about. It's all about friendships and business and all these friends and relationships that you grow. And I got to hold for 1 minute because I got to wish a happy birthday to Richard Pata, who's in the house. He's watching us live right now. Richard, happy birthday, brother. I wished him a happy birthday this morning, but now he's watching live. So big shout out to you, Richard, and the entire Pata Ohana. So who's just up the road from you guys. He's up in Paulsbo, Washington.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that whole thing, like I remember I had a client come out and we had a good day, and he's a pretty intelligent dude. And before he got on the boat, when he got on the boat, he was like, Zach, I appreciate your photography, and if you want to take photos and maybe send them to us, that's awesome. He goes, but I don't want any private. He goes, I have a big company and I only brought these 5 guys out, and I'd rather the rest of the company not know we're here. And I was like, well, that's cool. As we fished together, I was like, hey man, like, who have you fished with out here? And he named bang, 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 all the top names. And I said, okay. I said, can you give me some feedback of the things that you liked when you fished with all these different people, and some of the things you didn't like? And most of the things that I felt like he said he liked, I felt like we already had a good handle on that. And then what he said he didn't like is he said that, you know, I understand, like, you know, especially something like salmon, you know, people want to get a limit, you know, and that kind of thing. He goes, but you know, we're fighting a fish. He goes, I lose a fish, the last thing I want to hear is like a captain huff and puff or
Amen.
because you lost the fish or whatever. He goes, I'm a professional, but I'm not a professional fisherman, and I'm okay with that. I'm just out here for a day with my people, and that's it. And you know, that's the kind of thing that I believe that, yeah, man, do I want to be able to post limits every single day? Absolutely. But you know, I kind of view, at least from how we work, it's also a big part of it is hospitality, you know, and making sure people have a good time. And that's the last thing I'd ever want to do. So, you know, as Virginia said, it's a lot about teaching. It's a lot about learning. When you're talking about, you know, catching big game like that, yeah, there's a lot of teamwork, you know, especially trolling and stuff like that. It starts with the captain having a good handle on that wheel and keeping that fish where it needs to be, the angler and the person that's going to boat it or release it. Everybody's got to work together. I love that type of fishing. And when you can teach that and you can just stand back and just watch it all kind of come together, it feels really cool.
And you're right. I grew up playing team sports. I played football, I played soccer, I ran track. So there was a lot of team sports. And once I got out of school, there was no more team sports for me. And I didn't realize how much of a team sport fishing is. And it gave me that fix that I needed. Not just needed, but I wanted. I enjoyed being part of a team. And it's one of those things, whether you're the captain, the deckhand, the angler, it all works together. And if not, a blind squirrel finds an occasional nut. But if you're going to do it consistently, you need to work as a team.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I mean, the team concept's always in full effect. And it's like, I think one of the things that I try to do, when you're the captain or whatever, you're the leader, but when I try to show people what I expect and whatever, I tend to take on some of the worst jobs just to let them know that, like, we do all need to come together on this. And I try to figure out, who does things the best and so forth and so on for certain areas of this whole experience, and put those people in the right place so that we can be successful for sure.
Now, I got a question in from Corey. Corey's from Oregon. He wants to know, for Gatecrasher fishing, what has been your biggest sturgeon so far, whether from shore or boat?
So we get probably anywhere from 1 to 5. We don't usually get fish as big as like the Fraser River or British Columbia, but we'll get 1 to 5 per season that are over 100 inches. Kind of sucks, man, but in our rivers, especially in the last 5 years, we've got more sea lions than ever. I'm 52 years old. I've seen them come up all the time, and they usually are here during the salmon runs, and then they leave. They stay year round now. So when you hook a big fish like that, as you know, flying today, technology is awesome. Everybody's got their cell phone out, they're videoing the thing, they got the camera to take the photos. When it comes up to the side,
spots.
well, not only that, but when it comes, that big fish comes up to the side of the boat, I'm kind of less interested on getting an exact measurement. You see that big head come up, I'll grab that head and I'll pull it up, let the client give it a kiss on the nose, get all the pictures they want real quick. But that's an old fish, that's a big fish. I want to release that thing as fast as possible, because I don't know if you got what you guys have over there, maybe it's dolphin. I don't know what your predators, sharks, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But in that environment, man, you won't see it coming. I don't care if it's 80, 90 inches long. You'll have a sea lion come up and boom, just blast you right there. Both
Water
sides.
isn't clear,
And when you got a fit, chocolate
so you
brown
can't
water.
see.
Yeah, when you got a fish hanging that's older than us, you know what I mean? It's like
Respect your elders.
Yeah, we want to let them go right away. And I tell the guys too, different fishing has different platforms for doing things, but I'm like, bro, they're like, what do you think that fish was? I'll be like, that's a 80-inch class, that's a 100-inch class, that's a whatever. Yeah, but don't we want an exact measurement? I go, it's up to you, dude. I mean, you got all the pictures right there. You got your head next to something's head that's this big. Let the guys later argue about how big it was. But my goal on a fish that old and that big and that important to our system and that fishery, as far as breeding and things like that, it's better to just send him on his way.
So here on the East Coast, what we're having is we're having a very big shark depredation problem. We're losing a lot of fish to sharks eating them once you're fighting them. So that's something that it's something that is, I don't know if it's hit its peak yet or not, but it's definitely something we've seen increasing over the last 3 to 5 years. So, yeah, I totally understand. Are they talking about any kind of measures to do something about the sea lions to control it?
Unfortunately, no. And it's like
California.
Yeah, it's California for one, but yeah, that's a whole nother subject, man.
Listen, there's a reason we call it the no BS, because we don't talk about politics. But that was, you know what? That was a great mic drop. That I like it.
Yeah. No, but it's crazy, like, right? So it's like it doesn't matter, like things like seals or things like otters, because in our human mind they're cute. It's like they don't ever think about managing them in the same way that they might allow you to manage sharks, and things do get out of balance. And I know if human beings weren't here and we hadn't altered the system, this whole system might work a lot more smoothly, but that's not the reality. So there's certain situations that allow for abuse. When it comes to sea lions, you have water diversion, you have ladders, you have dams that were built that allows for a lot of fish to, their spawn run kind of ends right there. And your man from Oregon, he could probably relate to that, because it makes that wild population kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. So it's given those predators an unfair advantage that you wouldn't see in the wild.
That's, what, that brings up a very, very good point, where what you said, if it wasn't for humans, Mother Nature has a way of balancing everything out. She always does. And some years you have a lot more forage fish, and then after 2 years of that, then you see a bloom of predator fish, and then which slowly brings that forage fish back down to something manageable naturally. But then when you
Disrupt it.
Great, perfect word. Disrupt it. I was just going to say, when we just interject ourselves, whether, and listen, it could be, there's a lot of different ways that us humans have interjected ourselves, whether it's overfishing or overprotection.
Yeah.
Yes.
It goes either way. And I'm not trying to point a finger at anybody. I'm just saying, once we put our finger on something and sway it one way or another, what ends up happening is there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
And whether it's us that has to manage it or Mother Nature, it's gonna get balanced again. It's gonna get balanced.
There are things that kind of mess things up a little bit. Is California, you know, we've got the Central Valley farmers, we got all the people down in SoCal, and they just constantly keep building. Our Delta is a big lifeblood for a lot of these places, you know. So you get if you know, minus humans, the way things are naturally meant to work in a drought year, that's still fine because we still have all the snow runoff that would melt from the Sierras, hit all these water systems. We got multiple rivers that feed the Delta. And for lack of a better term, they kind of like flush the toilet of that whole system, you know. And in today's world, it's like, you know, that saying, the solution of pollution is dilution. So if you have drought and you don't have any runoff, you got all this water diversion, the pollution levels are just going to rise higher and higher and higher. So that's a big problem too. You know, we don't have that natural order. Right now, we're in about 3 years of drought. We get all this abundance of rain and whatever, it negates a lot of that. And we were able to maintain everything really well. But
you guys go through a lot of drought cycles in California, don't you?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
So, and that's, I've never experienced, I've spent a little bit of time in California, not a lot. And usually, except for one time, they've all been fishing trips. Fly out to California, go fishing for a few days, and fly out.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
No. Listen, it's what I want to do. And actually, I did call you because I had some friends that are in the tech industry that mentioned, hey, we might have a group that wants to go fishing. Will you take us out? And I sent them your guys' website, and they're like, let me get back to you, but that looks perfect. I'm still waiting to hear that. But that was right in the middle of the pandemic. So I don't know. It's every state's so different. It's really hard. And I hate to say that I kind of have my blinders on to the States. I'm looking more at the international realm because a lot of my stuff I do is internationally. So I'm always looking, okay, do I need a test? Do I not need a test? You know, are they open? I was supposed to be in Tokyo last week and they extended their state of emergency an extra month. So that kind of shut me down. Now, did it affect your charters at all?
Yeah, we were shut down. I think it was like March till, was it June?
4 or 5 months we were shut down?
Yeah,
right?
May, March to May, they shut us down. And yeah, it was a drag. I mean, but it was, you know, in the beginning, it was kind of like err on the side of caution and see what this is. And we all learned about, you know, how to live with this new thing. And but yeah, no, it was a little bit of downtime there. A lot of us took advantage of that, did a lot of work on our boats, rewired things, you know. And but for me, like I love to fish for white sturgeon. And one of the things that, you know, is a big part of her encouraging, when we met, she was just like, you should do this. She was like, I fished all over the world. See, I haven't, man. I'm a local guy, I know local things. You know, I'd watch TV growing up as a kid. I'd see all you guys in Florida, and you guys might as well have been on Mars. I loved it and I watched it, but I just couldn't relate to it, you know? And then finally she was just like, check it out, dude. I fished all over the world. And she's like, you're one of the best captains I've seen do this kind of thing. Because what you would like fly is like, when you get on the boat, you know, it's a program, it's a system, right? I'm not like that in very many aspects of my life, but when it comes to being on the boat and running stuff and having things run and nobody goes like this, it's just.
Were you in the military?
No.
Okay. Neither was I, but when I fish on a boat regularly, that's kind of how I am. I like a system. And whenever I do like my events, it's all a template. I like to know what's next.
Right.
You can change the ingredients, locations different, species is different, people are different, but the template's the same. And
the program doesn't change.
Exactly. And you know what to expect. every day, day in, day out. And one of the things that I always tell everybody, and it's the same thing with anything you do, whether you play football, whether you're shooting guns, when you're fishing, it's all about what I tell everybody, it's muscle memory. If you do the same things over and over and over and over again, when something different happens or if something changes, like Mike Tyson always says, we all have a game plan till we get punched in the mouth. And then when you get punched in the mouth, it's like Control Alt Delete. So when that happens, it's muscle memory. And you want to know what you're doing every single day. So listen, we got bad weather. Well, I know this is the things I do. And okay, the only thing I got to do different now is I got to give myself an extra 20 minutes or give myself an extra hour, or I'm familiar enough with all my equipment and my vessel and everything. Now it's time to say, okay, it's time to go home. For whatever reason, you got to make that call. But it goes to, like you said, it's a structure. And I notice that a lot with people in the military.
Yeah.
And it always leads, I don't know, for me, it makes me, I look at it and I see a lot of successful people that have those regiments.
Yeah, I think for non-military people like yourself and myself, shout out to Karina. My youngest is in the Navy. She's in Pensacola and actually Jacksonville right now.
Way to go, Navy.
Yeah, I'll talk more about Karina and me going to Florida and spreading my wings and seeing a local boy get out there and see some of the stuff that you guys do. But a little later, but no, it's like I use sports analogies too a lot. Fly, like I'll tell people, once you do have a system, and even if it's just you guys, private sport guys, there's 3 people on the boat. When you kind of know who should do what and so forth and so on, it's like, man, the play's at first. It's not at second. It's definitely not at home. You know what I mean? Everybody knows what they're doing,
I agree with you 100%. I look at more like you say baseball. We did a lot of pitch baiting where it's constantly moving. Fish is moving. He's in the spread. You're trying to get a bite out of it. And I know, Virginia, I see you smiling because I know you did some stripe marlin fishing a few months ago in Mag Bay.
I got to go too, man. That was pretty rad.
Oh, did you go as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so and it's teamwork, and like you said, the play's on first, but you have to have the cutoff man in the right spot, and you also have to have the guy backstopping you in case there's a problem. And especially when you're pitch baiting and you're dealing with more than one fish or a fish that can bounce around, being in position for that oh shit moment is important. Yeah. So tell us about your trip to Mag Bay. Is it the first time for the both of you, or?
Right. So we did a show in 2019 with Local Knowledge with our friends Ollie and Rush, and when they came out and did that
was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience, actually. So they came out and they did a Sturgeon episode with us, and at that time they brought a film crew, and one of those guys ran a
our captain that was doing the camera boat.
He runs like a resort down in La Paz, right?
No, he's in Mag Bay.
Mag Bay. He has a resort there where you basically stay there and they take you fishing for a certain amount of days. They have to take boats to take you out there. It's a 2.5-hour drive from the airport. It's like this long journey you take. But I've got to tell you, it was the most incredible experience in my life.
Yeah.
I've been to Cabo. I fished in Cabo. I've been to Aruba. I've fished all over in random places, but there is nothing like Mag Bay. And that particular weekend we were there, and that week that we were there, we went grouper fishing to give ourselves a break from the marlin fishing, and we caught more marlin. And then we went over here to try to do some yellowtail fishing and get away and give ourselves a break, and we caught some more marlin. It was the most incredible experience ever, and I implore you to go there, spend whatever it takes, and experience that before you die.
Yeah, the thing I liked about it though is it was just the whole thing. It's like you hop on a plane, you get off in Laredo. He's got a shuttle there for you. You go through the Sierra Madre Mountains, and then you end up in the edge of Mag Bay. Ponga takes you across the bay, and then you see Chris, big tall ginger guy with a big ginger beard, and then there's probably only 60 people on the island. And I love working people, and everybody I watch, from the guys running the Pongas to checking their traps for lobster, they're running nets for prawns. I could just see these guys are all hustlers, and I just felt safe instantly because I know these dudes, they work for a living, and Chris is the kind of captain that, the guy's a bulldog. If anything, you got to pull him back on, be like, hey, we're good on this and good on that. And like the first day, like, you know, I just love it. He's just like, you know, I've been running north and we've been having a certain amount of success, but you know, we could go to the Thetis or we could run south. And I'm just like, man, you know, hey, if it's a massive success or how this whole shakes out, man, just do whatever the hell you want to do. Because none of us on this boat are going to fall apart if it goes this way or that way. We got 4 days to fish, bro, and whatever happens, happens. Like, it's kind of like going into a restaurant, you know, it's like when the chef wants to serve you, I'm not going to tell him how to cook, man. You know what I mean? It's like, you just lay it out there and whatever it is, we'll like it. And man, I think the first day we caught a little bit shy of like 20 marlin. I know we could have caught more. It was like, you know, triples. Only 3 of us on a boat with our friend Clark. And then after that, I think we got around 17, 18. And we didn't just kind of, you know, get them hooked up and snap them off. And we fought them and landed them and whatever. And then, but basically he goes, why don't we troll for wahoo or something? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So I get up in the wheelhouse with Cap and start talking to him. And I'm like, yeah, Chris, man. I'm like, I see what you're doing. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, you're trying to help me maintain my ego a little bit. You know, you're calling the dogs off a little bit. I said, you know, I said, those fish, I said, and I had a buddy of mine, he fishes a lot of long range. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna fish for striped marlin, yellowtail grouper. I might go in the mangroves and catch some small snook, but I'm really excited about the striped marlin thing. And he goes, you know, I've done that, bro, and they're not really that big of a deal. So I tell my man Chris that, our captain, he goes, nah, he'd be right in a lot of different parts of the world, but down here, man, with water temps and the amount of feed they have, they're no joke. And from me to you, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it, but I'm like, that's as much fun as I ever want to have on stand-up gear. I was like, they're a badass fish, and man, I loved it. And yeah, he slowed us down a little bit. We start picking away at the wahoo and stuff like that, get some good things for the table. And
yellowtail.
Yeah, I mean, every day he had like a new adventure for us. We love doing the fast, what do they call that? Fast jigging for yellowtail and shallow under 100.
Oh, you were doing oh yeah, it's
what do they call it?
Yeah, fast retrieve jigging or
right, and that arm movement.
Oh, it's crazy.
Well, I learned it. The first day I sucked. I'm not gonna lie, I sucked the first day. But I was so determined to learn it because they were catching it and there's no way I'm just gonna give up. So the second day I'm like, got it. Right. I'm just like hooking them all over the place and they couldn't keep me off them. I was like, oh, once I learned it and figured out that rhythm, it was addicting. It was really addicting.
I tell you what, I've done a little bit of the popping and the jigging. I had never been introduced to it till I went to the Middle East and fished out of the Seychelles and fished out of Saudi and Egypt. That popping and jigging is very popular for the GTs and all the dog
so
tuna.
cool.
Holy smokes. And I look around, I'm like, no wonder everybody's so skinny. This is a full You're talking about a fluffy Cuban here. And I'm like, I'll throw that plug like 6 times. I'm like, guys, time out. I need a break. What? I'm like, I really don't even want to hook anything. This is enough work throwing this popper, you know. But no, it is pretty interesting and it's fun. And we've done a little bit of it here in Florida. And we are definitely, as far as a country, the U.S. is definitely behind the curve when it comes to that fast pitch jigging.
Yeah,
it is so much way. We're like 5 years behind when you start getting towards like the Maldives and India and Japan. Japan's just way ahead of us when it comes to this fast pitch jigging.
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of fishing friends in Japan. I do a lot of business in Japan, and they start talking to me about all this stuff. I went to Osaka Fish right before COVID. I was there in January and February. I was supposed to go to China Fish as well. Had to cancel because of Corona. And Osaka Fish, I would say 70% is either some kind of jigging or bass fishing. Very little is trolling, which a lot of people do here in the States.
Right.
Yeah.
We get a lot of clients, well, a fair amount of clients come from Southeast Asia, and they call it things like bottom bashing and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Some of my first jigs were from him. He's a good friend of ours and his name's Alvin, and he has he's a distributor of Accurate Reels out in Singapore.
He sells everything, and he's down in Singapore, and his Anglers Outfitters, right? AOF.
His company. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they're really cool. You know, they love to fish like a lot of people all over the world, you know, and I get them for sturgeon, which is really kind of surprising because they'll sit there, they love to fish for the giant GT, they go to Indonesia, do all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'd love to be there one time at one place in my life where they kind of, you know, they sit there and like, oh, you know, giant GTs, yeah, Indonesia, you got to call this guy. And then they go with that guy. And California, you know, that giant sturgeon, oh yeah, got to go do that with that guy, you know. So,
well, they probably already do it. That's the thing. They probably already do it. There's a lot of times in life that people are talking about you and referring you, and you don't even realize it yet.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it because just like anything else, word of mouth is always the best form of marketing. But it's slow, just like social media. People don't understand. Social media moves very fast. But when you look at, especially a lot of companies, and when I started playing in the social media world, I had a lot of companies call me up, hey, help us with our social media. And, you know, after a year, they're like, there's no people. And I'm like, well, you don't think this happens just overnight?
Right.
I didn't become a fisherman just overnight. It didn't take a year.
Yeah.
It's taken me 30 years to get to where I am. You're just seeing the end product right now. There's no such thing. People always talk about this overnight success. There's no such thing as an overnight success. There's an overnight, I just found out about you.
Yeah.
But when that overnight happens, somebody had 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of hard ass work to lead up, to lead up to that moment.
Yeah.
And it's huge. So by the time when you hear about somebody calling you up and saying, hey, my friend in Indonesia recommended you, that guy could have fished with you 5 years ago, and he's been talking about that trip for 5 years.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So you really never know. You just, and I don't want to make this sound cliche. You just put your head down and grind.
Yeah.
You know, that brings me to something I want to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. I love it.
Something. There was one influential thing that was told to me when I was getting to this fishing thing. You know, I had moved back after 6 years. I was a military spouse for a really long time. And when I came back, I kind of didn't remember who I was. And all I remembered was fishing with my brothers and growing up in the country and from a small town. And so that I just started fishing all over the place. And one thing that I really wanted to do this fishing thing. I really loved the message that he was promoting. I wanted to teach people about catch and release. I really wanted to tell everybody that when you come to San Francisco, there's more than just the San Francisco treat. When you come to this city, there is a rich fishery that is so fun to fish that you should probably check it out, right? And one thing he always used to tell me was, let the rod do the talking.
Ben told you that.
Ben Seacrest from Accurate Reels. Yeah. He was a mentor of mine many years ago, and that was one of the most influential things he ever told me. He said, let the rod do the talking, Virginia. So it's all that water, right?
And now here I thought San Francisco, the only thing about San Francisco was rice-a-roni.
Yeah.
See? That's what we hope to change.
Well, and the only reason I say that because when she said San Francisco treat, I'm like, rice-a-roni. I mean, I had to do the jingle. I had to do the jingle.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
I do know what you're talking about.
Come on.
That's like 1970s, 80s.
You just dated us, man. You just dated us. It's so funny. I would have never, until I got older, I would have never known anything about San Francisco other than rice-a-roni. That was just, until I got older. But then again, the world through the eyes of an 8-year-old, were totally different.
Right.
We're totally different. So, and now listen, and until I got to know who you guys were on social media, I didn't realize what a fishery San Francisco had. I had no idea.
Thank you.
No, that's it.
And that's why, and that is, at least for me, and I had this conversation with somebody yesterday or maybe the day before. It was either yesterday or the day before. We were talking about social media, and I said, social media is a tool. And, oh no, I don't want to be on it because this can happen. And this was yesterday. And I said, listen, this is no different than a gun. A gun is a tool. And if you use it properly, and I'm not trying to make this political, please, anybody that's listened to this is just a very simple metaphor and a very simple comparison. It's a tool, and if you use it properly and you respect it properly, you can use it to your advantage.
Right.
And if you abuse it, and if you don't learn how to use it properly, it could be dangerous. And I've seen a lot of people that don't use it properly. And especially in today's world, I know a lot of employers, they're using social media to go through what you say, what you're doing on the weekends, so on and so forth. And it's a very big issue, but it's a great tool because you can spread awesome words about fishing, about what you know, and what you do. And people get a chance to, like, for me, I say my social media, and I'm a little bit of an extremist. I'm never happy with just let me just have Facebook. No, I got to be on 31 different platforms. Yeah,
it's all about ears and eyeballs.
I got a Quora account and I answer questions. I have to be everywhere. That's just because I want to see how all this stuff works. It's like fishing. I want to know how it works. But at the same time, you're spreading the word of who you are and what you do. And suddenly it becomes your profile. It becomes your portfolio. So people can actually take a look at it and say, you know what, I like this person. Or and I hate to say it because it's it does give you a little prejudice, a little prejudgment, but it's you look at somebody, it's like, you know what, if I ever get the chance to go fishing with them or being in the same marina, I'm going to take the time out to walk over there and say hello.
Sure.
And if you portray as being somebody that's open with information and open with knowledge, what it does is it comes back to you 100-fold. It really does.
Even something like Instagram, like I get people call me up and, they want to know what is the best time of year to catch king salmon? What's the best time of year to fish for sturgeon? And I go, what I like about things like Instagram? I mean, just scroll back in the content, right? I could sit there and tell you all kinds of different things, but there's a lot of statistics there. Go look at what I did in July of last year. Go look at what I did in September, December, whatever it is. I tell them in today's world, if you're not a captain, it's at least spending a couple days per week, kind of updating people what you're doing, what's happening, and stuff like that. You're probably not doing it, And
the fishing report.
You can go see what we did during those months, and you could, you can see what looks the best to you.
So
go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I don't want to interrupt that sentence, but I got a question for you.
Yeah, so it's like things like king salmon. I know it's like most of the time, at least in our state, people are always going up to Alaska. And Alaska, I haven't been there myself. I know it's gorgeous and stuff, but every year they're fighting with maybe one king salmon per day, maybe it's two, whatever. But and we have a lot of challenges managing the population here too. But a lot of people don't know. I mean, we get them right off our coast, 20, 30 pounds. Occasionally we get 40-pound fish. And I like to not fish for them until July anyway. I'll get those fish. Like, they have an interesting life cycle, but they spend the majority of their life once they hit the ocean really far out there, just fattening up. When we like to target them, we start around July. Those big fish are hitting the beaches. They're gorging themselves on anchovies. And that's the guys I like to get. Those fish will be in the upper teens, mid 20s, sometimes in the 30s. And a lot of people don't realize, like, it's great. You should go to Alaska and experience that at some point. I hope to do that myself. But like, man, I think one of the biggest perks for us is, like, if you want to go do a trip with your wife and maybe enjoy some fine dining up in, San Francisco, go to the Napa wine country, enjoy some fine wines, please your woman a little bit, and then get on the charter boat, come out and slay some monster big salmon, big fresh king salmon with us. It's totally possible right there in the same trip, San Francisco.
So my question for you, and I want to ask you these questions independently because everybody has their own feeling behind it. And I'm going to ask Virginia first. What is your personal feeling on posting fishing reports on social media?
I think that on the business side of it, I think it's really beneficial. But I think you have to be really careful, especially on our platforms, to be really careful about the background. Simply because some people hunt all those photos just to find out where that is, to overfish the places you're catching those fish. And this is our business, right? Especially what we do with sturgeon.
It's more than that. It's just the fishery. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, her turn.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead now.
No. Finish your statement. Go ahead.
I already got lost.
I'm sorry.
Re-emphasis again.
Social media posting.
Posting your fishing reports.
I think it's really beneficial on a business standpoint, simply because it does keep our clients active. They know what we're doing. They know what we're on the fish, things like that. I think it's great for spreading the joy of fishing for just the regular person that isn't following just fishing. Like, you can see the joy out there, the families out there, the memories being made. But like I said, I think the number one drawback I would have to say is that you have to be a little bit gentle with the background, because the fishery can only handle so much, right? And the more that they're watching all these top dogs catching all these fish, they all want to get on it too, and it's just that much more impact to the fishery is what I believe.
Okay. Now, Zach, what about your personal opinion on fishing reports?
So
listen, again, for anybody not watching or listening to the podcast with no visual, this is awesome, because there's like this silent conversation going on between you two, and it's an eye rolling, and I'm watching Zach, it's pretty funny because you just did it again. You tilt your head to look at Virginia, and I've just gotten used to, instead of turning my head, I can just look at the screen in front of me. But you turn your head and she rolls her eyes, which it's so awesome just to watch action play with you guys.
There's actually nothing being said. It's just
there's nothing being said, but I can see the whole thing, and I'm like, just like, I'm watching your head turn, and she stopped it. I'm like, no, I'm going to ask this individually, because this was a topic that I can see you both have your own opinion on. And that's why I wanted to ask you this independently. And then I'm going to give you my opinion, whether you want it or not. So
I want it. So when she was giving her opinion, what she didn't say when she was giving that opinion, and I know she's thinking about fishing reports in terms of sturgeon, not really halibut, not really rock cod, not really salmon. Okay. Sturgeon's a little different, and then just to kind of back up a little bit, they're a fish that they're 17 years old, the females, before they have their first spawn. And then they only spawn every 4 to 5 years afterward. And then, like, which really sucks in a drought year like this, our spawn is going to be so minimal this year. And so they're a very sensitive population. And they're also, just as Fly, there's certain behaviors that fish have. They're the type of fish, like a herd of cattle, they'll come into a certain area and they might graze for a day, maybe 2 weeks. So it makes them very vulnerable. If you really get on a hot bite, if you quote unquote find the herd, is what we call it. If you get on Facebook Live and look at where I'm at and all this stuff, boy, those boats will come down and they'll just rain on them and
kill the bite.
Well, not just kill the bite, you just kill too many of them. And right now, I'm of the opinion, along with other entities, universities, and even our state, that population is really struggling. So to be so specific with a sensitive population like that might be a little bit tough. But as far as like, I want to see people catch fish. I want to see people get involved in fishing. The more, the better. Things like salmon or highly sustainable halibut. I mean, 22-inch halibut is the smallest one we can keep. That fish has already spawned 2 times, and he's about 7 years old. It's highly sustainable. Hey, man, everybody come out, grab the kids, whatever. Let's do it, And so I want to see people it's a delicate dance, I guess, between wanting to see as many people as possible get involved, enjoy fishing, enjoy catching, but yet some of them, especially in the early part of their fishing life, they don't understand sometimes that certain fisheries, we really need to respect the resource in a different way.
I totally understand the whole point of the broadcasting, because it'll bring the whole fleet in. I know when we're giant tuna fishing up in Nova Scotia, it doesn't take long, and even if you put it up on social media, it doesn't take long because of everybody on cell phones. And really the tunas are following the herring anyway. So all you have to do is wake up at night and see where the herring boat lights are. You just scan the ocean. It's like, oh, they're over on that bank, or no, they're over by Henry Island, or they're over here by this island. But you're right. It doesn't take long for the pressure to show up, and then the fishing shuts off. My thing about posting reports on social, and this is a two-step facet for me. Number one, for me, I never post a fishing report. I don't post fishing reports personally for 2 reasons. Number one, I want people to know that it's not about what you catch. It's about having a good time. Now, if somebody catches a nice tuna, they get a sailfish jumping. Listen, I'm going to post fish pictures, but I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, listen, we were 18 for 22 or 18 for 80 something. Because I don't want, first of all, I don't want people to feel bad about that, that they missed a bunch of fish and suddenly their fishing trip just got broadcast to, you know, 250,000 people and they feel bad about their day, because it's not about that. It's about what you caught. Right. The other reason, and this has to do with the fact that I've fished with a lot of different people all over the world, and I've listened to a lot of charter people. And correct me if I'm wrong here, because you know you guys have a charter boat. When magazines or people start broadcasting about these, we caught 80 fish, or we caught whatever a normal great day for you guys. Oh, we caught 20 something sturgeon today, and it's all over social media. And then suddenly you get somebody that charters your boat and they catch 2. Right. And listen, you're happy for 2, but I saw on social media that you caught 20 one day. Why can't I catch 20 today? And suddenly people are disappointed in that, when it's just they get a picture in their head because they've seen it on social, or they've seen it in a magazine where listen, this is the best of the best days, and suddenly their day wasn't the best of that best. Yeah. And now they're disappointed in it, and they totally lose track of what fishing was supposed to be. Right. And that puts a lot of pressure on you guys. That puts a lot of pressure on you guys.
Yeah. And I think that I'm going to quote a friend of mine. His name's Ray Hereford. He's a striped bass fisherman and king salmon up in the river. And he's been doing that, I guess, for about 27 years. And I love it. Like he invites me to come fishing with him. I'll pre-fish with him before his season gets cooking, or I'll do it when it's pretty much done. Cause I don't want to, you know, he's a nice guy. Never, you know, I don't want to take up spots on this boat that would be normally paid for, but he'll explain the conditions to me, and he'll be like, this is what it is. And it's going to be whatever it's going to be, you know? And that's the whole thing. It's like, you're fishing in a wild environment. That's one of the pressures too, is there's a lot of pressure in charter fishing. There's a lot of pressure anytime you've done television programs. And I think we've done probably 4 or 5 of them or something like that. I tell people, getting back to another sports analogy, that unlike you and I being in a semifinal game or something like that, this pitcher might be this and he might be that. And our coaches are going to be telling us that for the week we're preparing for him. But we're guaranteed we're going to have some pitches to swing on during that game. In a wild environment, you're not guaranteed anything. So when you get out there, I love the fact that, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a biologist and you've been to school for a bazillion years or whatever the deal is. At the end of the day, we're going to hit the water like we all do. Most of us going to know what the conditions are, and we're going to play that situation to the best of our abilities, and we're going to catch whatever there's there to catch.
There you go. And that's why it's called fishing and not catching.
So that's one of the biggest highs, you know, is just going out there. Like, there'll be time when it's when it's off season, whatever, just from my own knowledge, you know, especially growing up, that, you know, my friends I'll say, let's go do this. It's not really the time of year to do that. I know, but there's certain satisfactions. And even if you're going to do your best during that time of year and you figure it out and learn it, you know?
Listen, I'm going to go do it. The only time I would poo-poo somebody on something like that is, you know, if you come to Florida in July and say, man, I really want to do some downhill snow skiing. Yeah. That ain't going to work very good here in Florida. Yeah. We don't have mountains.
Yeah. Like sliding.
It would literally be from like Orlando all the way down to Key West. It's just a small one giant slope.
Oh,
yeah. A lot of people just call that a lazy river.
Right. I fished the whole triangle. I've literally gone from like what was that, Juniper, and I went all the way down to the Keys, and all the way up to Tampa, and over back to Orlando. I've literally dropped the whole thing. Was great. And
it's great. Our state's huge. Well, it's like you guys. You guys are a massive state.
Right.
One of the few times I was in California where I didn't fish, I got to San Diego. I'd come up from Mexico, and I called my brother. He was living just north of San Francisco by you guys. He was living in, I think it was Sonoma Valley. I'm not 100% sure. Oh no, it was called Geyserville. That's what it was called. Geyserville. And he this was years ago. Anyway, he flew into San Diego and we decided we're just, we're going to drive up the PCH. And it was great. I thought it was cool. It gave me some time to hang out with my brother. And I drank back then. So he's like, I want to take you somewhere. So we went to this vineyard and it was right on this river called the Navarro River. And the vineyard was called the Navarro Vineyard.
It's yours.
Exactly. So the best part was, you sign up for the wine club, you show up to people's houses. It's like, here, I bought you a bottle of wine. Oh, you own a vineyard too? Well, as all fishermen, we don't ever let the truth get in the way of a good story. So absolutely. And I brought you a special bottle of wine.
Yes, smooth.
Whatever it takes. So one of the topics I want to bring up, and I don't want to say we've skirted around it, but one thing that I've seen on your social media, and then I'm going to have to ask Zach because I don't know. There's a lot of kayak fishing on Virginia's social media page. Zach, do you partake in the kayak fishing?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I haven't freshwater fished very much since I was a kid. Okay. And I met her. She does a lot of freshwater fishing and she's always like, oh, would you come? And I'm like, no, negative. And I know it's going to sound terrible, but I always had this mindset of like, maybe freshwater is a little more like the kiddie pool. I like to get out in the ocean or out in the bay, and it's a little bigger and it's a little more complicated.
Machismo.
I don't know, maybe it is a little bit of that, but then I'm just like kayak fishing. I mean, I used to tease her all the time, and I'm like, one's fishing should not be judged by how difficult you've made it on yourself. You know what I mean? I was like, I used to put that out there, but since then, she's taken me to some really cool spots, and I kind of flashed back to when I was a kid. And when I was studying, she took me to a river one time. We were fishing for smallmouth and largemouth bass. And I was looking at everything. And you can relate to this as a fisherman. It's not about throwing something or putting something in the water and recognizing a tap, tap, tap. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the fast water coming down where it hits the deeper, slower water. I know why it's slower now because it just dropped off. I'm looking at the eddies, And just as I understand places like the Delta, which is basically a massive river with a lot of arteries, I'm understanding really quick the anatomy of that river and where those fish should be. And then as I started going out there, I loved catching smallmouth bass. It was something I only saw in like End Fisherman, again, watching shows from far away when I was young. And smallmouth were a lot of fun for me, but I liked learning the pattern of that whole system. I start to understand that, after the heavy rains, this happens. And then once that subsides, this happens. And just figuring out that whole system. And for me, that's a lot of what fishing is just trying to figure out the habits and the habitat of your quarry. And it's not so much of 1,000-pound fish and 5-pound fish. It's really understanding nature. So yeah, I mean, you'll laugh too, because they've got all these cool kayaks and stuff like that. I don't want to get that deep in it. I got one from Costco, man. With my photos, I take my photos and it's like, I hold up my fish and it looks cool and all, but you don't see my kayak because I look like a gorilla floating around.
And that's why I asked, because I have plenty of friends that they're always fishing together, but it's only one person in the pictures. And I always see Virginia's pictures. Yeah. And I didn't know if that was you in the other kayak or if that was somebody else. So I had to ask. I didn't know if you were a kayak fisherman as well.
I love kayak fishing. Absolutely obsessed with it.
I would have never guessed that.
Old Town Cadillac, and I freaking love it. But it's so much more than just learn. Like, he loves the system of it, but there's something about kayak fishing. When you go fishing, it literally skirts you right above them. They don't even know you're there, and it becomes a frenzy. And there's like this, feeling of being able to put your own vessel into the water, sneaking up into a system, not firing up an engine and blaring down but like creeping in like that and hearing the frogs and just being in touch like that. You can catch big fish on my kayak too. I mean, it'll pull you all around. It's all that core movement that's really going to land that fish for you.
I do want to say one thing. It's like, she has taught me to love it. And Fly, I don't know if you've experienced that yet, but what it reminds me of is when you and I were kids, before we had anything, before anyone taught us how to fish, there was something in us that made us go to the water and we wanted to learn how to do this stuff. And for me, it's like I did that mostly by myself when I was a kid. You know, I had a father that was awesome, but my father's family, Puerto Rico and Portugal. My dad's still living. He's 91. He was the first one in this country to be born. Men don't play. It was all about work. But when I would go get dropped off like that, I had to figure things out. And when I kind of separate myself sometimes from the group, when we kayak fish or whatever, you could be stealthy as hell and you could just sneak up on things. And it's all that kind of presentation that you learn when you're a kid, learning how to stalk fish, learning how to come into an environment nice and easy, you know, and just see things that you wouldn't normally see if you just came kind of blaring in there with a big outboard or whatever. And then you're so close to the water too. I mean, when you're landing those fish, you reach down in your hand and they're just right there. And it's good exercise too, man. I've learned to love it.
Well, listen, you lost me at exercise.
Yeah.
Anytime I have an urge for exercise, I just sit still on the couch and I wait for it to go away.
No, it's the best part. Your legs are all
No. I can't say that because I hate sitting still. But no, I can't say I've done much on kayaking. What I have done here on the East Coast is paddleboarding. I haven't done it in a while. I used to take my paddleboard down to St. Thomas every year. And it was cool because in Vessup Bay, the glass minnows would come in and the tarpon would just crush them. And the best thing about a paddleboard was you can kind of just drift and they don't realize you're right on top of them.
Right. And they're all about sight. If they hear you or see you.
Oh, yeah. So you literally could either stand up or sit down and just watch them feed on all these glass minnows. Right up underneath you.
Oh, yeah.
Right up underneath you.
Super peaceful, yeah.
To me, I think it's awesome, you know. Going back to what you said is watching the water. And I speak to a lot of people about this. Here off of where I'm at, the East Coast of Florida, we have the Gulf Stream. And the Gulf Stream is no different than a river. It's just a giant river of water. And as water's moving into an area or out of an area, I try to describe it to people as no different than a river coming through, and then it hits a tree limb that's hanging in there. So there's an eddy and a fish sits behind it. I said it's no different, except instead of it being 5 feet across, it's 50 miles across. But now have that same mentality, and it's very hard for people to sometimes get the bird's eye view of it. And I know people who build homes and they build developments. They have this way of looking at it from a bird and looking at it downwards because it's so big. But the biggest thing is you got to be able to relate to it on a smaller scale, understand it, and then expand on it. And a largemouth bass or a smallmouth bass or a trout is no different than a blue marlin or a sturgeon or any kind of fish. Just finding an area where they can get out of the current for a little bit and ambush some bait going by it.
Yeah.
It's a very big thing. And like you guys were saying, when you guys can stealth move with that current, now you can just kind of cast and practice wherever you want to throw it without spooking the fish, which is a huge thing.
No, and it's all about scale, like you said. I know things like sturgeon, the river is very big, like kind of like what you described, Sacramento River, Suisun Bay, just a river, it's very big. I talk to a lot of guys in sturgeon fishing when you want to learn, like getting some of the inland sloughs, they have phenomenal fishing, but it's a downsized version of the main river, and all the principles apply, and even like what I was talking about earlier when it came to smallmouth bass and the places that I reluctantly went to, but I love going to now that she introduced me to, Virginia introduced me to. It's the same principles, and a lot of these basic fundamentals of fishing, as you said, they're all relatable, man. And when you start seeing those symbolisms, and and here you made that comparison from marlin to bass, there's a lot of these key things that apply, and it's cool.
It's all the same. It's all a cat and mouse game. The whole thing is cat and mouse. It's depending what the mouse is and what the cat is. Sometimes it's a trout chasing a mayfly. Sometimes it's a largemouth bass chasing a frog. And sometimes it's a blue marlin chasing a 20-pound yellowfin tuna. But it's all the same thing. It's cat and mouse.
Yeah. Right. We had one experience like that where, I tell them about that Gerber project we went on 2 weeks.
Gerber, like baby food?
No, Gerber knives.
Gerber knives.
Oh, okay.
We had a project we did with them over in what was that? We took them to the Fairlawns.
We took them out to the Fairlawns, and we ended up hooking on like giant lean cod. Like just, I mean, like I was holding them up to here. They were my whole body. And Farallones are known for having like really awesome rock fishing and lean cod fishing there. And
it's 27.5. I think it's 28 or 27.5 offshore islands.
Right.
There's 27 islands offshore.
Oh, it's I think it's either 27 or 28 miles.
Okay, 27 or 28 miles. Is it just one island or is it several islands?
There's several out the Golden Gate, but the reason why I thought about that is when we did that project, the prompt was, get a couple guys and I'm going to be the captain and I'm happy to be behind the wheel and Virginia be on the deck doing what she does. But get a couple guys for content, have them out there fishing. And she first goes, well, what about Mike and Kevin? Well, Mike and Kevin are commercial fishermen. They got a great look to them when they come out with their gear. These guys are the real deal and they'll look good in content. But I start thinking about it, they do this for a living. And when they land fish, there's not going to be a whole lot of elation on their face. They're very monotone.
No,
It's another day at work for them. So I stopped her and I said, you did that shoot for Costa and you fished with that young guy, Clayton, for black. He's a professional black bass fisherman. I said, what about we have.
Is that Clayton, the MMA fighter?
No, that's another dude.
We have another story.
Talk about that.
He's cool. I got to reach out to him because Ali put me in touch with him. But go ahead, finish your story.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, what about Clayton? We'll get him. You did the Costa shoot with him. And she goes, no, I know he's a professional black bass guy, but I go, look, if he can fish drop shot and feel that little bite, I go, he's not going to have any problem fishing a heavy 8-ounce swim bait and some deep water catching ling cod. I said, let's get him and Todd Storm. And I said, because they don't do a lot of this type of fishing, when they hook up and start catching some of these giants, it's going to be the best day of their life. And that's the energy, that we want in this shoot. And so we did that. And they did not disappoint, man. Those guys got it done. They're primarily freshwater fishermen, but man, they smoked them and they started understanding what worked and what didn't. They did great.
You can't copy pure elation and passion. When there's a passion on camera, you can't fake that.
Right. Yeah, it's as authentic as it goes. You want to talk about Clay Guido?
Right.
He's one of our favorite people.
And it's so funny because a couple of months ago, I put together Baller versus Bosses down in Guatemala, where I put professional athletes with business people. Because in today's world, it's all about network and platforms. And so I had some NFL football players. I had some retired baseball players down there. And I had just so happened to be on the phone with Ali Husseini. And he was going to be down in Guatemala. Literally, our trips were going to butt up against each other. So I ended up flying down 3 days earlier to spend 3 days with Ali, because every time I see him, it's at the Fred Hall show or the boat show here in Florida. And we never get a chance to talk. We talk for like 15 minutes and we roll. And he's got work to do. I've got work to do. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fly in early and let's just hang out. Let's hang out. Same thing with Rush. I never get a chance to hang out with Rush. And it was cool just to hang out with those guys for 3 days. Anyway, long story short, he's like, hey, let me introduce you to Clayton. And Clayton's like, man, I got a hosted trip that I'm doing in Northern California. It might've been with you guys, for all I know. Anyway, I haven't circled back around, but I should put a note to myself to circle back around and call him and just shoot the shit, or just bring him on the podcast and talk about fishing and just shoot the shit. I mean, that's
a great personality. He's a passion for fishing. He's a great sportsman, spokesperson for the sport. He, just like he is in UFC, he's got that wow personality. Yeah. And he lights up any trip you do with him. He does this thing called Gills and Thrills that we partner up with him and we do trips with him. He takes, his fan base and he'll do these like a trip where you either go to a concert with him, you go fishing with them, or you go to, certain events. They do like a combo entertainment package with you and they get to hang out with him. And he gets to choose these fun things he loves to do in this most happiest places that he is, go to a UFC fight, whatever it is. And he enjoys that with the people. And what's so cool about Faye is that over getting to work with him on the boat, he gets completely comfortable on your boat. And he really isn't the star of the show that day. He turns his clients into the star that day. He takes photos and videos and does all these cool things. And by the end of the day, it's like you have this lifelong friend. And that's, I think, the coolest part of his business motto.
No, and listen, that's great. I know when I've always done my hosted trips, at the end of it, you get all this cool content. I don't want no pictures of me. I got plenty of pictures of me. This is for you to go home and show all your friends of all the fish you caught, the good times you had. I travel with shit. I think it's 8 cameras in one Pelican case, and I'm taking pictures. And here's your Dropbox.
All those pictures?
What's that?
Fly fishing's on all those photos, the photography, that's all you?
So on my company page, Fly Zone Fishing, those are not mine. Those are the ones that get sent to me or that I get tagged in. But on my page, yeah, those are all me. Well, except on tournament time, when I host a tournament somewhere, I would say 50% of the gross revenue I spend on photographers. I try to get one photographer for every 10 boats because I'm putting on an event. So the event is not about me. The event is about everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I want pictures of all the boats. My purpose of putting on an event is to promote the location, the people that are fishing in it, the kind of fishing, and the fun time. So, you'll see some goofy pictures of me, either photo bombing people, or I'm definitely that guy. If one of my photographers is taking pictures of something and there's a group, you're going to see my head kind of pop up over somebody's shoulders or climbing up on a table. I've done that way too many times. But other than that, like my page, Fly Navarro, that's all my photos, all my videos.
Good job. You have an eye.
What's that?
You have a good eye for it.
Thank you. What I try to do, and and I do have a friend that lives in Iowa, so I'm not trying to pick on Iowa, but I always say I'm trying to show my industry to that guy in Iowa that only gets 2 weeks worth of vacation. That's what I'm trying to do.
Amen. I like that.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show. So as people are scrolling through Instagram or Facebook and all that, and they look at it, it's my opportunity to catch their eye and keep them on fishing. And that's a big deal to me. And have you guys, and it's over closer to you guys, have you guys ever been to SHOT Show? It's out of Vegas usually. SHOT Show is kind of like ICAST, but for hunting, a lot of guns and a lot of hunting and stuff like that. And I got flown out there to do a bunch of hosted videos and interview people. And I got brought into a conversation about how we're losing the next generation of fishermen and hunters. And so I'm sitting there, and afterwards there was 4 gentlemen speaking. And the person that put it on, she came up to me and said, "What'd you think of the presentation?" I said, "Well, to be honest with you, if I got to listen to those 4 guys about hunting and fishing, I'd give it up too. Those aren't the guys that I want to be my spokesman for my sport." Yeah. And the great thing about social media is we don't have to buy airtime. Right. It's free. So whatever we post up, we could share with whoever we want. And if it's interesting, we get more people following us. If it's not interesting, then it very quickly. So I say, I take it upon myself when I wake up every day. My job is to introduce fishing to somebody new. Right. And that's my job. That's what I do. And I've had plenty of people in the fishing industry, and you've made the reference about here on the East Coast. I can't speak for the West Coast. I can speak about East Coast. And I've had somebody in the industry come up to me and, "Oh, you're favoring this company." And I'm like, man, I'm not favoring anybody. If I have a friend that's with me and he's in the business, that's like if we're hanging out and we have dinner and we go somewhere, and next thing you know, you guys get some followers out of it or get some business out of it. That's not my problem. That's kind of a happenstance for our friendship. And I'm not going to take away from it, but I'm not saying anything. I'm just offering up my Rolodex to people. And I told this person, I said, "Listen, my job every day is to, when somebody is either retiring or looking for some free time and they're looking at golf clubs or fishing fishing rods. My job is to make sure they pick up fishing rods.
Mhm.
After they pick up fishing rods, it's your job to sell them whatever it is you guys are doing. So whether you're a charter boat in San Francisco or you're a rod builder in the Northeast, or you're a boat builder in South Florida, your job is to sell them your product. My job is to sell them our sport. And that's the way I look at it.
I think there's a lot of things that go beyond fishing too. It's like I always tell, all my crew that people won't fight for anything they don't love, and they need to find connections. You drive across that bridge and you see that massive river. It just looks like a bunch of water to anybody else. But until you've connected with it and understand that maybe at a later date, when there becomes legislation to maybe protect that river, whatever, when you really understand that environment, you might be more apt to support it, So that's a big part of what we do too.
And I do a lot of work with a lot of conservation groups. It's my passion. It's something that I love to do. And just like any other conservation group, their job is to talk about conservation. And I look at it totally different than a lot of the groups that I work with. Even though I help them with it, I look at it as, listen, if I can introduce people to fishing and make you passionate about fishing, then they're going to be passionate about conserving it.
Right.
But you got to make them passionate about the actual topic itself. If you just sell conservation, it's empty.
Right.
It's empty. You have to sell the love of the sport or the species, and then you can sell the conservation. And we deal with it constantly. If you look, one of the most successful conservation groups is Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited, all the money that's raised by Ducks Unlimited is used to buy the wetlands to make sure that there's no development on it, so that these ducks have a place to go.
Right.
So they have a place, the habitat to hang out and feed. And that why is all that money raised? Because people like to go duck hunting.
Well,
So
hunters and fishermen are some of the biggest conservationists. I know conservationists has kind of got like a dirty name because it's used out of context, but it's people that hunt and people that fish, as you said, that really preserve these places.
Well, there's a huge difference between conservation and environmentalist. Conservationist is one thing. It's like what you said earlier. It's managing the resource. It's managing the resource. And if there's too much of one and not enough of the other, then there's a problem. I mean, if there's not enough land and too many of whatever species, whether it be deer or ducks, you get a virus, or you get some kind of, look at COVID. I mean, COVID is a perfect example. You get deer that get, I forget what blue mouth disease, and then, they waste away because there's too many deer in an area. And so you need to manage that resource down for that area, or give them more land. So, and listen, I'm not sitting here to tell you to do which one or the other. That's not my job. That's well above my pay grade. But that's where somebody just walked in. I love it. You can come into the live, dude. Come on in.
Come on to say hi to Fly.
Well, it's so funny because both your eyes went. It was awesome. Hey, how are you? Introduce yourself to all the people that are watching.
Hi, I'm Davina.
What's your name again?
Davina. Yeah.
Davina. Okay.
That's the older one. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And just so you know, we got people watching. I got we have Mozambique, we have Tasmania joining in, we've got Nova Scotia, we've got people from Alaska. So there's people watching from all over the place.
Yeah, I love listening to your show, man, and have you introduce all these different places to even myself and to all the other viewers, because you're just creating a platform, man. I mean, like the other day I was rock hopping, fishing for smallmouth bass, and just listening to you and those boys from, they were talking about fishing in Madeira and doing that whole bit, some of your old friends and whatever. And it's like, I went to Portugal, Fly, and I got this close to going, man. And I'm going to have to go back for sure.
I was just talking about it this weekend. I was running in the radio room for a fundraising tournament yesterday, and one of the people that was part of the tournament, the family's from Portugal, and I've only spent a little bit of time in mainland Portugal in Lisbon connecting through, but I spent a little bit of time in the Azores. I did a season in the Azores, and Azores is it's a little bit you kind of step back in time when you look at it. It's so cool. Like number one, Azores did not stop whaling until 1986. So there's still a lot of history in the museums about whaling. It was a very big whaling port. So just to watch that, the history of the boats that used to come in and out of the Azores for whaling. And the Azores is the island I was on, which is Fayal, is actually 9 different volcanoes that have come together. And one of those volcanoes didn't even pop up until 1954 or 56. So they have the history of watching that part of the island come up out of the ocean.
Crazy.
It's so unbelievable. So yeah, I love, talking. That's the one thing I love about the podcast. And I'm sure you've heard it. The podcast was born because of COVID. I normally travel 250 days a year, fishing all over the world. And after 10 days of sitting on the couch, I'm like, this shit ain't gonna work. I need to talk to my fishing friends.
Yeah.
We started, and at the beginning, and I'm not gonna lie, and again, I don't want to get into the intricates of it, but at the beginning, there was a lot of people there. We were all afraid. We did not know what was going on. I had just gotten home from the Dominican Republic, my last event. We got on the last flight out before they closed the country. So literally my whole photography team, a representative from the Billfish Foundation, my girlfriend, we're on the last flight out. And as we're getting ready to get on the plane, what was an empty flight, now it was standing room only. And everyone's just trying to get out and, okay, let's get ready. And I'm sitting at home for 10 days and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go batshit crazy. So I grabbed my 2 phones and I went out in the driveway and I just started talking to people and passing around fishing information. And hey, check this out. Hey, you can go fishing here. You can't go fishing there. And I'm trying to pass good, honest information. I have the connections, pass out the information. And then after a while, it got hot. We're in Florida. So I came inside and I said, you know what? I got really cool friends all over the world. Let's bring them in. Let's talk about what they do. And I stopped doing the alone podcast and I don't do those anymore. And I only do it when I can bring people on. And I want you guys to tell your stories. And that's what I want people to hear. I want to share that information. Fishing stories are cool as shit, man.
I know, right?
They're cool as shit. So why not share them with everybody?
Right.
That's all.
I think it's really cool though, like how you're going about this by making it incredibly diverse. I mean, like I said, just the other day, I'm sitting there listening to you talk to old friends about fishing in Madeira, and those dudes were hilarious, by the way. And then, yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And then now you're over here talking to people from the San Francisco Bay about king salmon and white sturgeon. And, it reminds me of Ali Husseini and Local Knowledge and him. I asked him, I said, I was like, why us, and he goes, man, we do a lot of blue water. We do a lot of different things. He goes, what you do is super cool. It's a bit of a gem. A lot of people know that you can sturgeon fish in Oregon. You can do it in the Fraser River, but not too many people know. You can go up to San Francisco, 45 minutes away. You're out in the marsh, which is basically the swamps, wetlands. He went out there and he was so hilarious. He goes, this looks like the
California Bayou.
Yeah, he goes, Louisiana meets the hills of Ireland,
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't know.
Mhm.
You really don't know about California. I didn't know about California.
Yeah, it's incredibly diverse. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you could be out in the ocean, king salmon, we catch incidental catches of thresher shark that keep things interesting or whatever. But yeah, we got good saltwater fishing offshore, inshore. You can run up in the rivers, catch striped bass, king salmon, shad, steelhead. It's just and we got incredible black bass fishing too. A lot of the biggest tournaments are held out here. And so it's a lot of people are totally unaware about how diverse this place really is. And as you said, it's a massive state, man. I can drive 11 hours and still be in my state. So
that's like Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were going to drive straight north, it's one thing, but if I was going to try to drive to Louisiana, it would take me 12 hours to get out of Florida. And I'm 5 hours away from Key West, which is south of me. So if you're going to go from Key West to go to Alabama, you're talking about almost 20 hours to get out of the state of Florida.
Yeah. And it's just cool too. Like you said, like with the platforms we have today, social media, whatever, like I fished for the first time over the summer. I went to Pensacola to visit my daughter out there. I had some of the petty officers take me offshore, caught wahoo. You know, it's kind of funny, Fly, is like, and this is just me with no expectations at all going to Florida. I love the fact that I went to the Pensacola Naval Base. I was walking along the shoreline at first light and I was seeing the bait bust on the surface, you know, and I was like, man, I'd like to get a little jerk bait or a popper. And I don't even care what I catch, but I knew there's something down there chasing that bait. That's happening in the morning. The boys, petty officers took me fishing offshore and I caught a beautiful wahoo on a Nomad lure. And that was fun too. And I caught a mahi, but like the thing I liked the most out of that whole day was the triple tail. That's a weird
triple tails are neat.
Yeah.
They're neat because they have what people don't realize about triple tails. They love hanging around structure, and that structure could be a marker, or it could be just a piece of floating styrofoam cup in the middle of the ocean.
Right, and it was just the whole behavior I was looking at. You know, this thing's floating like it's a dead piece of driftwood, very drab color, kind of graphite gray. Looks prehistoric, and you know we're fly lining live shrimp to them and having a good time. And then later in the day, we were fishing for bottom fish. Couple of them were bringing in, you know, barracuda, boom, right there on the surface. And I'm like, you know, that triple tail floating really still like that. When you spook him swimming off real slow, I'm like, maybe there's a reason why he behaves that way. He doesn't want that big barracuda coming up and bang.
He just wants to look like a piece of nothing floating.
Yeah.
And they taste good as shit too, man. They're delicious.
Yeah,
they look funky, but they taste delicious.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back. She's in Jacksonville now. Like I said, she's air crew in the Navy. And when I go back, I'm going to go to Jacksonville and hopefully get some more fishing in and just kind of expand my horizons.
When do you plan to go to Jacksonville?
I could really go at any time. Like right now, this is a little downtime for us because I'm repowering the boat and I'm just getting ready for my saltwater season. So I got a little wiggle room to get out and do something. But
well, I'm putting on a statewide tournament for mahis from Jacksonville to Key West over Memorial Weekend. And Memorial Weekend is about our military. So if you guys want to come out, I'll give you an entry into the tournament.
Ooh.
That'd be cool.
I not to incentivize anything, but I'll give you an entry. If you find a boat, I'll give you an
Memorial
entry.
Day weekend?
Yeah, it's a Saturday and a Sunday. And if not, if you decide you don't want to go fishing, come down. We're going to do a full 2-day music fest.
That's cool.
So,
I like the fishing.
We go to Florida.
We'll do both. Music's good.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm just throwing it out there for you guys. I'm throwing it out there for you guys. We're
definitely possible.
We're talking about loading up on a music bus. One of my business partners, he owns one of them big old music buses. He's in the production business. He's the one that we're partnering up doing. I'm handling the fishing side of it. He's doing the music side of it. We're like, man, we should create some pretty cool content to promote the tournament. So why don't we go to all these way stations and interview all the different marinas? We'll take the tour bus down and then just interview people from Key West all the way up the coast, all the different marinas, just give them some free publicity and have a good time and, you know, make 2 or 3 days out of it and just blow it up on social media and have fun.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I'm all about fun. I hear what a lot of people don't understand. I've been very fortunate in my fishing career. I've met so many people. I don't want to go fishing with assholes. I don't. No. So if somebody's an asshole, I won't. No. And I've also said the same thing about the projects I want to take on. If it doesn't look like something that's going to be fun, if it's going to be monotonous or boring, I don't want to do it. So let's do something I don't care if nobody's ever done that. That's good. I want to try it. Well, I don't know how you're going to make it work. Well, shit, I don't know how I'm going to make it work either, but listen, let's put it up on a stage. So if we flop, everybody can laugh with us. That's the way I look at it. So let's do something fun and invite people to join it.
You know what, Fly, though, like looking back, right, people would tell that story about losing that big fish or everything just going foobar. I'm like, you know what, if you would have landed that fish, you'd never remember it, dude.
You never remember it.
No, it's all the other stuff is Irish shit. It's all good crap, man.
Exactly. I was telling somebody a story the other day. I've had 3 fish that we fought for over 5 hours. One of those was more than 6, and we lost them all. I never caught any of them, but I remember all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I remember all 3 of them like it was yesterday, and they're all heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And listen, in the grand scheme of them, only one of them was really, really big. The rest were, one of them was my first blue marlin I ever saw. He was only like 400. We fought him for 5.5 hours, but that was the first one I ever saw. I was 17 years old, had him on a 30. I was with my dad, and I'm like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to mount this thing. He's like, how are you going to pay for it? I'm like, I'll figure that shit out later. But this is my first blue marlin, and we lost him. And another one, it was going to be an island record in the Seychelles. We called it, on the island record was 808. And on the bite, we called this fish 9. And we were going to let him go, but he died. And we're like, well, shit, we're going to take him in, but we ended up losing him. So, and another one was during a tournament, during the Big Rock. So, but I remember them. And you know what? Those things, those failures, and I don't even want to say it's a failure. We just didn't get the outcome we wanted. We didn't get the outcome we wanted. So, but I took something from it and I learned. And to this day, there's many things. Okay, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do this. So yeah, those little things, those are what shape us as fishermen and fisherwomen, ladies. So that's going to lead me into my next segment. What's that?
You can call me a fisherman. I'm just,
and I'm glad you say that, because I've had I say this is a fraternity, and I had somebody say, well, what about the lady fishermen? I go, I didn't say my fraternity was sexist.
Exactly.
So I just called it a fraternity. I don't go out there and say you're going to be worse because you're a woman, or better because you're a woman. Even though I do say female anglers make better anglers than men, and that goes back to my.
I got something to say about that.
That goes back to my Mike Tyson theory, where everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And listen, there's a lot of adrenaline going through, and men, because we're idiots, and I say that with pride, because I got a hard headed, and then being that we're all Latin on this panel, I'm a stubborn Latin man. So when you got a plan, and when you get punched in the mouth, it goes Control Alt Delete. And what's the first thing we do? We try to use muscle, and there's nothing about muscle.
Default brute force.
Exactly. This is all about leverage and how do you use your rod and reel properly. And it has nothing to do with strength. I hear so many people, well, I'm only 100 pounds. I'm like, I'm going to show you how to use this rod and reel so that, and depending on the tackle we're using, but if we're using heavy tackle and you're in a chair, if you have any muscles that are sore, you did it wrong. Because there's no strength. What's that?
I'm Filipino and white. I just have to say that.
You're Filipino. You're not Latin?
Filipinos. Hello.
You're all Filipino?
I'm Filipino and Irish. So my mother is Irish. She's from Boston. And my father's from the Philippines.
Oh, so see, and I thought your last name.
Who invaded us?
Hey, don't listen to her fly. Hey, there's Spanish in there somewhere. Spain was there for 500 years.
Okay, see, that's where I get it. But what I really wanted to bring up is Virginia. You're a captain, and how long have you been a captain for?
So it's coming up on my 2 years now.
Okay, and what made you decide to want to be a captain?
I think I've wanted to do this ever since the beginning. So I can do all of this. I've been taking boats out and doing this my whole life with my dad. We've had boats in my family. So the boating thing was easy peasy for me. Once I learned to go on the water and look for something other than a tan, I got to tell you, I absolutely fell in love with it. I no longer looked at the bikinis and hanging out with my girlfriends out in the sun. I looked more like, what is under there? I must find out. And all of a sudden I end up being that girl that goes out boating with my brothers now with the bass rod. And I'm swimming to the shore to go get a few, casts out while he's has all his friends playing music on the boat. I already have the principles of everything to do with boating. I absolutely love to fish. I'm totally capable of doing this. I make choices every single day on the boat with Zach too. We both are a dynamic team together and we love fishing together, but it is my dream to run along with him and driving him nuts.
And I love that. And that's why I specifically wanted to bring that out, because women in the fishing community is growing so fast. And I'm a big proponent for that. I'm also a big proponent for taking my dog out for a walk after the podcast. I'm sure you just heard her. But I'm a big proponent for women in fishing for a lot of reasons. But my biggest reason is the next generation.
Right.
And the next generation to me is huge. And I've seen a lot of times, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, good, bad, or indifferent. I've seen a lot of guys that were borderline fishermen, meaning I like it, just kind of like it. And then suddenly they get married and their wife doesn't. And that's where it stops for us in the industry. But when mom likes it,
you're going all the time.
We're going all the time.
Mom wants to go.
Mom wants to go. Unless, of course, you have that one weird, crazy kid that is going to go no matter what. But when, I was that guy too. And I don't know if he's still watching. Tarzan's like that as well. Awesome. He's 12. But when mom likes to do it, that means the whole family's doing it. And so suddenly what goes from one person fishing to 5 people fishing is huge. And so that's why I'm such a big proponent. Like you guys were talking earlier about nobody wants to be yelled at. And again, I've told you I've hosted plenty of trips, and some of my friends are like, hey, can we send all our wives down and you can teach them? And it works out really great when it's just the wives. But when the husband wants to go, and I don't care, but when the husbands come over and they start saying, honey, do this, this, and that, I'm like, whoa, what am I here for?
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I go, you only started learning a year ago. Get back.
Yeah.
You're not at the point where you can teach people.
We're still a grasshopper.
Yeah, you're not at the point where you can teach people, because what I'm teaching here is not a husband to a wife. What I'm teaching here is just fishing. I don't care if you're one. I'm just teaching you how to fish. I'm going to tell you the same things. So the only thing is, I will admit, I'm way tougher on guys. I have one friend. I told him my grandmother's a better angler than him, and he got mad. I said, my grandmother's a better angler than you, and she passed away like 7 years ago. So,
I totally agree with you about the women on the boat, because especially something like salmon, we have barbless hooks. We're trolling, and you can straight tack them like you would a wahoo or whatever, but you just need to maintain pressure on the rod. Just nice, steady crank, steady pressure. Listen to the deckhand. I love Virginia's speech every morning. She goes, you hook up to a really big fish. She goes, you're going to have a lot of people yelling advice to you, right? She goes, but there's only one person to listen to. That's the one with the net. With the one.
That's right.
But anyways, but the women tend to keep their composure. As you said, the men with their default, meet something difficult, apply more brute force. It's the last thing you want to do. They're so coachable without that ego. It comes together way better.
Our ego screws us up more times than you can imagine. It screws us up.
One thing that I truly enjoy about being a female on a boat and this experience, I get these questions all the time, but I think that when I'm out on the boat, I don't really see myself as any different as the guys. I grew up with all brothers. I have all male cousins. I know I look like a girl and I could play the act, but I learned this in college. Okay. I was a tomboy my whole life. So
I think your favorite thing you told me, one of my favorite things you told me, she was like, I grew up with 4 brothers. She goes, I had to teach myself how to be a girl.
I did.
I can believe that.
Yeah. But what I like is that I get to hang out with the wives that come out. I get to hang out with the daughters that are trying to get into it. I find a lot of times that clients really enjoy bringing their female people that are significant in their life to meet me on the boat. I get so excited with them. I bring that joy and show them how freaking cool is what they did. You're such a badass. Look at that girl. They love girls. I mean, I'm a cheerleader, really.
They request her all the time.
You know, and I get so excited. I'm excited for them. I know what fishing did for me. And if I could spread that in every female from this point forward, and for them to know that they don't need anybody else to get there, you just have to have the drive. There you go.
Exactly. And it takes one person, and it doesn't really matter if it's female or male. It takes one person where they feel comfortable,
right,
and they can ask questions. They feel like they're not going to have a stupid question, or they have a question and they want to feel like they can ask it. And that's really, really important, where suddenly that 8-hour day suddenly feels, okay, I had a good time. I had fun. And it's really important.
It is.
It's very important. So no, I love it. I'm a big proponent for that. And I love the fact that you want to go grab the wheel as a captain and do it as well. It's like, hey, move over. Zach, move over. It's my wheel today.
We take turns all the time.
Well, that's one of the things too. It's like, as an angler, like I have a gross amount of respect for anybody that works on the deck. I worked as a deckhand myself. And when you're stuck behind the wheel and the magic that those guys are able to do, and often people have no clue, you know, you have people come on the boat, not only have they not fished for that species, maybe they've never fished before in their lives, and they have an expectation. Of course, you're trying to meet that, but the magic the deckhands do is incredible. But I always try to emphasize with my people, learn all of that and then get behind the wheel and understand there's a whole different set of problems and set of rules, things to figure out, you know what I mean? And get high on that, you know, and she's done a great job.
No, it's, and what you said is very true. There's one thing about on the deck, and then the running of the boat, at least to me, and correct me if you look at it differently. To me, it's the hunting aspect of it.
Yes.
It's a hunting aspect of it. And I'll admit, as much as I love hunting, what I love about running the deck is being with the people. To me, that's what I enjoy more, is being with the people. And I enjoy looking at it through their eyes, where they're asking questions. And that's, as much as I love running a boat, I love that tacticalness to it. I enjoy being with the people. And
she tells me one thing. She says, because at the end of the day, sometimes she makes fun of me. I'm like, hey, what were they like? What did they say? I'm stuck in a wheelhouse. I'm boxed in.
Nobody wants to hang out with that guy.
No.
She just laughs. And she goes like this. She goes, you know what it's like, Zach? She goes, you just drove us to the party, but you actually didn't get to go.
You're the Uber driver.
Yeah.
You're the Uber driver. I know, you know, all the times I've, you know, run a boat for a tournament or running a boat in general, I usually end up with a little speaker, listening to a podcast or listening to some talk radio. And I don't necessarily want somebody up there on the bridge with me. I want some empty noise so my brain doesn't go crazy. But, you know, it's like chess. You're trying to figure out your next 3 moves. Okay, if I get a bite, and the fish does this, I have 4 boats there I got to deal with.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And which is great, but I like being in the cockpit, and I love singing and dancing and carrying on. And I sing and dance even if there's no music playing. That's the whole funny thing. I got plenty of music up in my brain by itself. I don't need a speaker for it.
You guys must be related. Yeah. Out there or landing fish. I'm like, you know.
I have a beat in my mind all the time.
I'm always kind of carrying on. Like I said, before you guys jumped on, I was jamming out to Marilyn Manson, just kind of getting pumped up for the podcast. And usually that's my thing. I like music, and when I'm running the boat, I want that that alone, let my brain, what I want to do, what's my tactical, and it's great, but I rather hang out with the people.
Yeah.
I rather hang out with the people and find out, okay, what's your goal today? What do you want to catch, or what do you want to do? Maybe it's not catch a fish. I hate to say that, I almost came out and say get yelled at, and it's not yelled at. But my girlfriend all the time. So I was fishing. Oh, it was great. Yeah, we caught 12 sailfish, or we caught 50 sailfish, whatever the number is. And then she gets around the people we were fishing with, and they're like, "Oh my God, it was so awesome! There were dolphin there was whales there was sea turtles, and we saw bait." And she's like, "You didn't tell me about that." And I forget because when you're out there every day, like sea lions, you guys look at sea lions, I'm sure you're like, "Oh my gosh, not another sea lion."
Trust me,
not another sea lion.
I drive the people on the way in. I swing by the buoys and I buzz these big bulls, let them see them. And it's what you said. I mean, it's a lot of times you have to remind yourself, these are things that you and I, or we see all the time. But this is like their Disneyland, man. They might have been waiting months or weeks or years to come get out with you. And
they want to see the sea lions.
Yeah. You need to see all that stuff. And I tell the wives all the times, occasionally I get really cool wives that call up and they're like, "Hey, it's my husband's birthday. I want to book the trip, book the boat for him and his friends." And I'm like, "Are you going to come?" "Oh, no. Fishing's not really my thing, blah, blah, blah." I go, "Well, I get that. Have you ever been out the California Delta? Have you ever been out the Golden Gate? Have you ever been to San Francisco Bay around Alcatraz?" No. I go, "I'll tell you what, forget about the fishing stuff. You need to see this. And it's only a day out of your life, and you're from here, and you're whatever age you are, and you've never seen it. I mean, that right there is worth the price of admission. You should come."
Exactly. And do they come?
Yeah, often I do get them to come. Occasionally,
that's perfect.
But I love getting them out there. Yeah, and surprisingly, it's one of those kind of things that in our lifetime, a lot of people feel like it's appropriate for me to do this, and it's not, all that kind of crap. And a lot of that's being broken down. I think people like Virginia, seeing them out there, and they feel comfortable, and they're like, "Well, wow, maybe I really would dig doing that," and then they're willing to come. And a lot of times the husbands are like, "Is Virginia going to be working the boat or whatever like that? I'm going to think about bringing my wife, or I'm going to bring my daughters." And it's really cool because they don't think, like, especially larger fish. You fish for fish big and way bigger than what we fish for, but they don't understand, as you said, that no, you're capable of doing this with the right technique, the right coaching, and the wisdom. It's totally something that's available to you, and you can participate in this.
Virginia, how does that make you feel that you're helping people break barriers and try something for the first time?
I mean, it's definitely a driving force in me. I think that I just have that kind of personality anyway. I think one of my favorite quotes was that, I don't just wait for opportunity to happen. I beat it down mercifully into submission. So.
Amen, sister. Listen, if I wouldn't be out of camera screen, I'd jump up on my chair and celebrate that. That's a good quote. That's a good quote.
One of my favorites. And I love being a part of that. I love seeing that growing passion. I think that it's always been a part of me to, like, whether it's single mothers or wives of fishermen or daughters, you can come out here and have fun too. And I swear there's so much more than just stinky fish. Yeah. So much more than that. And just to see the anatomy of these fish, and that you're seeing something in the wild, and that you're looking at the biology part of it. I have a bachelor's in biology and a minor in chemistry, and I have a rich passion in science. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to volunteer at UC Davis and with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and just getting to really see the impact of us. And I love spreading message of women getting out there and the message of conservation. I think it's important, and that we're here, and come by sometime when you come to San Francisco.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And on that note, what's the best way to find you? Oh, no, you had something to say. Say something.
It's easy to sell what's real.
Listen, there's certain things in life, I think it was, this was this is a big philosopher. I'm going to quote a philosopher, Chris Rock. There's certain things in life that sell themselves. Exactly. There's certain things in life that sell themselves. You don't have to sell it. You might have to present it to them. You might need to show them, but it sells itself. One of the great things about being a fisherman for a living is no 2 days are ever the same. No 2 days are ever the same. You might go to the same boat. You might be fishing for the same thing. You might use the same tackle, but no 2 days are the same.
Never. That's the best part of it.
That's the best part. So you don't know what you're going to expect. I mean, you can go out there with the idea of, we're going to hopefully catch 2 or 3 sturgeons. And suddenly, you catch something that maybe is 300 pounds, 400 pounds, something that people just have never seen before. Or something happens and you open that door for people. And to me, that's what the greatest part of doing this for a living is.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that like they thank me at the end of the trip or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Fishing offshore is not the least, it's an expensive thing to do. And I tell them if it wasn't for you guys and your support, I wouldn't be able to do this either. So
exactly.
I'll thank you right. I'll thank you right back.
But yeah, there's so many people. They're like, man, I can't afford to do what you do. And I'm like, I can't afford to do what I do either. I figured out a way of doing it without having to pay for it, and if it's something that you really love to do, you'll find a way. And don't let money stop you.
Everybody's getting high, it's mutually beneficial. Everybody's getting a kick out of it. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I can't get enough of it, man. We fish a lot of times 25 plus days a month. And like you said, I'm learning something new all the time. Something odd will happen, whether it be a whale come by the boat and do something really unusual. You're like, yeah, I've never seen that before. I had a thresher shark do a header right into the side of the boat coming after a flasher. I'm like, I don't know why he did that. It's like, all kinds of as Ollie always says, Nat Geo things happen, man. And just your mind gets blown, no memories happen on the couch,
You're not going to catch, exactly. You're not going to catch them tied up to the dock.
Right.
Go out there. And even if you don't catch anything, you're enjoying your time. You're enjoying Mother Nature. I know I've only gotten into river fishing and trout fishing in the last few years. And it's something that me and my girlfriend, Naomi, enjoy doing a lot. And a lot of times we'll go out and I don't even grab the fishing rod. I'll just take pictures of her throwing the fly rod or the birds, listening to the water. And that's what people don't understand. You're out in nature. I mean, we're sitting most of the time, we're in the car jamming to music, talking. Just go out and enjoy, what's been given to us. I mean, I know we get spoiled when we live in a certain area, do the same thing. Very rarely do I take the time to go to, for me, I'm only like 3 miles away from the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge, and you can see marsh and swamp, and I don't take the time to do it. But if I go other places, I take the time and I'm like, man, I look at the birds and I do look at the sea lions until they eat my bait or my fish and they drive me crazy. But I watch them because it's something you don't see every day. And, I don't know, me personally, I try to pinch myself to remind myself, hey man, take a moment to try to look at it just a little bit differently.
She put a lot of that in my life, Fly. Like, I remember we landed a big sturgeon and like, just getting with the dudes, especially a lot of times when I'm with my crew, we do a crew trip. It's like, how many of these things can we actually catch? And let's see how fast we can do this fire drill. And I remember one time I let go of fish really fast, I'm ready to keep the machine going. And she goes, whoa, you didn't even look at them, because the sturgeon, a lot of them are really incredibly unique. Their patterns, their colorations, their scoots, all that grossly unique fish. Some of them, a lot of them are cookie cutter, but every now and again you see one that's really odd. And she was right. You know what I mean? You're not really taking the experience in when you're just,
enjoy
counting numbers.
I one of my early mentors that I used to go to for a lot of advice. We had a great moon. We fished, a moon cycle. We caught 23 blue marlin. I'll never forget the number. 23 out of 33. We caught 20 in 17 days. We caught 23 blue marlins out of 33. And I went over them and I'm, oh man, it was great. 23 for 33, 23 for 33. And he's like, stop. He's like, who cares about the numbers? And I'm like, dude, every year you're trying to be the top on the rip. He goes, no, I get it. But which one of those fish do you remember the most?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, which one of those fish of those 23 you caught? What do you remember? And vividly, I remember it was one that we didn't catch. I vividly remember one we didn't catch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one I remember. And you know, you got to take the time out because like you said, Virginia, it's sometimes when you're just fishing for numbers, then you miss the whole point. You miss the forest for the trees, you know. Look at where you're at, you know.
It's super important not to minimize people's fish. You know, everybody that comes on the boat is from different fishing, you know, levels, whether they're brand new or been around a long time. And this could be their moment that they've been dreaming on their bucket list to catch this. This is their fish. They don't care what size it is. They just want to touch it. They just want to see it. So I think the biggest thing for me, it's like every fish that hits the deck. The reason why I get so exciting is because it's a blessing.
Yeah,
it's not every day. You know, not every fish just hits the deck like that. I've spent plenty of days on the Delta and stinking up the place, you know, but when it happens like that, it's a blessing every single time. It doesn't matter if I see it every day. And for that person, it's a blessing. So don't minimize the fish.
So talking about minimizing a fish or not minimizing a fish, I have a question for the both of you. Because I don't know. I've never done charters like you guys do for sturgeon and stuff like that. Most of the stuff I've done is marlin fishing or giant tuna. And you get an opportunity to put somebody in a chair and they fight this. It's a battle. It really is a battle. And after, just like, and I'm going to go back to your sports metaphor. When you're on a sports team and you go into battle, or whether you're in the military and you go into battle, and that battle forges relationships. And after you catch that fish, some of my best friendships I have is because I've had the opportunity to walk somebody through a battle.
Right.
And do you have that same thing with sturgeon fish?
Absolutely. You're instant best friends. Instant.
Yeah. Do you guys, and I know I do you guys stay in touch? And social media makes it so awesome to stay in touch with people. And a lot of the invites that I get for fishing has been with people over the years that I got a chance to share an experience with them. And they're like, hey man, next time you're in Australia, just like if you're passing through Australia, come fishing with me, or wherever the case is. Hey, I want to you shared something with me. Come, I want to share something with you. Do you guys experience that as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about building relationships, and it's all about the people, you know. And it's like you were talking about fighting a big fish. You know, a lot of guys have ideas that if I don't hook it and I don't fight it and I don't do it all alone, that it didn't happen. We have people of all ages come out, whether it's little kids. A lot of times I tell, they're like, can my kid land a fish like that? I go, if a man can reel a big bluefin tuna, yeah, you can do it out here with this sturgeon or whatever. And if it's really big, sometimes I'll have a bunch of retired guys, and you know, you start worrying about their health. I know you've been in that position as a deckhand where you're like, you know, we're all men, and just because this guy is 75, 80 years old, still a man, dude, and he doesn't want to, you know what I mean?
He's not going to give up.
Right. So a lot of times I'll see that situation, and what she was talking about earlier about working in a difficult field. I used to work in hospice for a long time, you know, before I got into professional fishing. But I'll see them when she works in the medical field as well. And we'll start seeing certain things that kind of concern us. And I'll be like, you know, why don't you share it with your friends? I mean, that fish is massive. Share that experience with your buddies. Let them feel what it's like to have that fish rip drag in their hands. And there's nothing wrong. I could foresee myself being an older guy at one point and tag teaming a fish or relaying a fish, and you know, and just doing that. And as far as like bonding with people later, yeah, it's all about the friendships. I live 40 minutes out of San Francisco. I got so many clients out there that work in the tech industry in San Francisco. They're calling me up all the time, calling us up all the time. You guys want to come out and drink some sake and do some sushi? And you know, yeah, it's all love hanging out with our people and having our Gatecrasher family just stay tight.
I highly recommend when people invite you to do stuff, do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I and not just you guys, but anybody that's listening. I'm notorious, and I like to tell people that I'm notorious when I go to the boat show or Fred Hall. Somebody will come up to me and say, hey, I know you. I've seen your podcast, or I've seen something you've done. Come fishing with me. And I'm like, what's the best time of year and what's your airport code? Those are the two questions I always ask. And I have gone and fished some great places, and not all of them are billfish. I had a guy one time, he found me on Instagram. He's like, hey, come fish at my lodge up in Ontario. And I'm like, okay, I'm done giant tuna fishing on this date. I'll fly straight from Nova Scotia to Ontario and I'll go fishing with you. And I showed up. He's like, I've invited 20 people. Nobody's ever said yes. And we're still great friends. We're still great friends. And caught some trout and got to shoot some pheasant. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, I mean, he had a full lodge in Canada, and he, he stayed busy. But he started playing on social media, and I was sharing some of his pictures and come fishing. Okay. Yeah. Too many times in life where we stay too busy and we don't get a chance to learn. And at least for me, what it makes me do is it makes me appreciate the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I'm looking at a trout, and I've never caught one, I'm thinking, you know what? That person that's never seen this giant bluefin tuna or sturgeon, this is how they feel.
Yeah.
This is how they feel. So you get a great opportunity to see it, to be that person on the flip side.
Yeah, Ollie did that for me. He invited me to come down and fish for bluefin tuna down there in SoCal with him, and it was kind of when our show wrapped or whatever, and I kind of went right back to work, and I always thought about it. And then one day on the boat going back to Clay Guida, I was talking to him. I'm like, yeah, Ollie's always invited me to come down there and fly the kite and see if we can catch some bluefin off San Clemente. And sometimes you need that little nudge, and Clay, that's what Clay's all about. He's like, we got to do it. I'm like, what?
Let's do it.
Yeah, he's like, we got to do it. He's all, he's more traveled than me. I mean, that guy's feet are in the air more than they're on land. And he's like, I'll take care of all the logistics, whatever. And we went out there, and going back to like, the schematics of things and how things work. I think Ollie loved me because I'm a pretty good student, and I took, he taught me how to fly the baits and all that stuff, whether it was Yummy Flyer or the dead flying fish. So I ran the gear for him all day long, and man, we worked really good as a team. And I think I caught one, it was about 100 pounds. Clay caught one like 60 pounds. And, it's just, I put those two guys together. I highly recommend you do something with Clay. He's as sincere as it gets. And now he's been adopted by Florida. He has a couple of homes down there. He keeps inviting me to go, and I'll definitely go down.
He makes his home in California, doesn't he?
No.
He was here. He flies everywhere.
He's from Jonesburg, Illinois. So he's from.
Okay.
And then
trained in Sacramento.
He's been fighting for the UFC for 15 years, man. That's a long time.
How old is he?
38 or 39. 38 or 39.
That's not too bad.
But so he comes out to California to train at Uriah Favor's gym and get ready for fights. I think he's coming back sometime in April or May. But he has his home now in Florida. So when he's not training out here, he's back in Florida. But he goes everywhere, man. He's a well-traveled dude.
I'll reach out to him. I've been meaning to. And again, like what I said, life gets busy, and I'll call him tomorrow.
Yeah, he's a great dude, man. It's just nice, like in the industry, we get to meet people that we would be friends with outside of all this. And if we can all do projects together, have fun together, and just give us an excuse to be together,
That's the biggest thing. I love incorporating as many people as possible in my projects. That's I enjoy that more than doing projects on my own.
I totally agree.
I like, for people that don't know, Virginia was in my book. I highlighted you in my book. I wanted somebody from the West Coast. I wanted a different kind of fisherman, and a female captain. I had a couple female captains here from the East Coast. I had nobody from the West Coast. So I like to incorporate people in projects and do stuff together. And again, it goes back to that fraternity. It really does. It totally goes back.
That theory that you talk about is that, like, I totally get that vibe when we go to the shows.
Yeah.
It's like totally a frat party, dude.
Oh, it's so a frat party.
Dude, and you get to see the people that create this gear that you absolutely fall in love with and want to know the mechanisms and how they did it and their stories. And then they're inviting you for beers, and then everybody's having beers, and then it is a fraternity, and I absolutely love the shows.
It's nice to get off the water too,
you don't have any responsibilities like normal.
Yeah,
right.
You don't have any. So I'm assuming you guys have been to Fred Hall.
Yeah. Yes.
Long Beach is probably.
I've been to the Long Beach one. I've been to the San Diego one. I usually go to both each year, and then I just started going to the Long Beach one. We do ISE. I go to ICAST. So I love the show circuit.
You love the show. Well, I remember I was not there when it happened. I was there the year after. I went to Fred Hall and hung out with Ali and them. I was there the year after they changed the hand sanitizer. Did you ever hear the hand sanitizer story with Ali Husseini?
No.
So Ali and Jason, this was years before COVID, before everybody has masks and hand sanitizers. But they always had a hand sanitizer thing. As you're dealing with 100,000 people in a day, you want to keep clean hands.
Shaking
Oh yeah.
Well, they took out the hand sanitizer and they put KY jelly.
Oh.
So every time somebody sees it, they're like, "Oh man, great!" And then they go and they keep walking, and it's like it never comes off. So they would sit there and watch these people walk, and it was the greatest joke in the world. I mean,
so funny.
In the world of TikTok, that would have been. I mean, again,
Viral.
yeah. Oh yeah, this shit would have been viral.
It might happen at that next show.
I don't know, because right now everybody has their own personal hand sanitizers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, watch this idiot. And you can't tell them, hey, you want some hand sanitizer? You just gotta let them run with it, and it just keeps going.
Just keep going.
That booth and watching that all day, man, you pee your pants. They're laughing.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. And again, we're all pranksters. I only went to Fred Hall once, and I had a ball. It was
fun.
Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's it's just like iCast. It's no different. It's just West Coast style. So I was kind of like a fish out of water. Ali's like, come on, this is what time we do dinners. This is what we do. And he's like, just hang out with me. And me and Ali have the same personality. We're pranksters, we're jokesters, and you got to have thick skin around us. So we hit it off, years ago. I would say it's probably been 15, 17 years ago. And we've been friends ever since.
What's funny is I asked Ali to vouch for you. Because I was, first of all, because I had seen you, and I watched you on the internet and stuff, but I didn't know who you were. So, but he's like my go-to. Hey, Ollie, is this guy cool? And what he said about you was exactly true. He's like, he's an awesome human being. He's an awesome human being. So you do anything, because that's back when I wrote that piece for the book. I'm like, so you feel comfortable doing things with him? He goes, absolutely, 100%, one of the best humans. And that was it. I needed from Ollie. That's all I needed.
And I appreciate him saying that. And people sometimes, because of social, you see something on social media and you don't know if it's true or not. And one thing about me, what you see is what you get. There's no, I'm not a different person. The only thing I would say, and my girlfriend can vouch for me, there is Fly and there is Robert. And they're two different people. And Robert is the stay-at-home recharge battery guy. After being on the road for 20 days, I want to order some takeout and watch some Netflix and just
chill.
Not much. Yeah, and just chill out.
Hibernate and enjoy your home.
Yeah, but Fly, this is Fly, and this is what you see out on the road, and this is really who I am. Really, I tell everybody this. I'm just a 16-year-old that shaves half the time, and that's really who I am. I enjoy life like a 16-year-old that's fishing, and I enjoy it, and I'm glad that Ali vouched for me, and that's the way he sees it, and I hope my reputation precedes me when I go places, because that's what I try to do. I try to help people, and I sometimes almost to a fault. I never say no. And what I try to do is, listen, if I can't do it, I'm going to set somebody up as best as they can without me there. Yeah. If it's something I just cannot do, whether it's time constraints or whatever. And I get, because of social media, I get hundreds of people. Hey, I want to go fish in this spot. Who should I call? And I'm always helping my friends. And that's what I want to do. My friends like you guys, you're out there, you're making a living, taking people out fishing. It's the same thing. If I vouch for somebody, it's a big thing. And listen, here's the thing. If I vouch for something and something comes back, I'm going to call one of my friends up and say, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
You know,
Same way I tell people all the time when I make a recommendation, I always tell them afterward, maybe give me a shout, let me know how it all went. Because you want to know, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I don't care if it's an individual person or a big company. And I've vouched for some big companies before, and I have called CEOs up, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here on the podcast, but I have called some owners of companies and CEOs of companies and said, hey man, what's up with your sales team or your this? I've put people in touch with you, and I've gone through the regular channels. I'm not asking for favors. All I'm asking is answer somebody's email. And even if you say, sorry, I'm not interested. Okay, that's fine. I'm not asking people to, and I'm just using you as an example. If somebody calls you up and says, hey, I want to go fishing on July 7th and you guys are booked, that's not your fault.
Right.
You're booked. Yeah. Or a week's span. But if I call or I recommend somebody, and next thing you know, they're like, man, that person showed up and they were drunk, and they're going to get a call from me. Yeah. First of all, if you're my friend and you're coming to work like that, man, can I help you? Is there a problem?
That's the best part about the age of information. It's not like when we grew up as kids, you didn't book boats by whoever had the most flashy ad and yellow pages, or whoever had the cool
you just dated yourself by saying yellow pages. You just did, dude.
Yeah, I'm meant to, but it's you can show what you do. And at the end of the day too, I always tell people, we do seminars at fishing expos and stuff like that. And I usually always close with, come out and fish on the Gatecrasher, man. Come fish with me. I'd rather show than tell,
Exactly. It's easier. Yeah. It's hands-on. It's hands-on. So now, before we wrap up, is there anything you guys that we missed that you may want to add to it? And we don't have to wrap up. I'm just, I just looked up and I'm like, holy shit, we've been on here for 2.5 hours.
Oh god.
It is Sunday. We're just hanging out here doing work. So I don't know, you guys might have stuff going on, but is there anything that we missed that you want to add to? And here's the thing, we can always circle back around and do it again in 6 months. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Any other dying questions you're curious about?
No, I know if I have a question, I'll just text you. I think we've covered most of the stuff. I think my biggest thing is I just want to go do it. I just want to go catch a sturgeon. I gotta jump on a plane and I gotta go do it. I think there's
fun thing flies like once we're hitting like July or certain times we'll be fishing. I might be fishing saltwater, okay? But if you come all the way out from Florida, man, and you're like, hey, I want to do the offshore king salmon thing, I want to fish for some halibut in the bay, we can knock that out and we could still run back in the Delta and go catch some dinosaurs out there too.
And for me, it doesn't really matter what we're catching, to be honest with you. I don't care. Yeah. To me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I say a sturgeon, but I've caught I didn't tell you my sturgeon story. I just remembered. So do you guys know John Brooks from Australia? He's a big YouTuber. So he fished my tournament in Saudi Arabia. The tournament, and for those of you that don't know, we put on the first ever international fishing tournament in Saudi Arabia. And one of the parameters that I was given, I was allowed to invite 6 teams, but it had to be one from each continent. So John Brooks was who I invited from Australia, and big YouTuber, and everybody I invited had a big social media reach, because if I was only allowed 6 people, I wanted to make sure I can boom it out to as many people in the world as possible. And so anyway, long story short, he ends up winning the tournament. We've become really good friends. And then I was going to the Osaka Fish Show in Osaka, Japan. And so he was in town, and we were just walking around to all the different tackle shops, meeting people. And we go to lunch, and he's like, hey, there's a place we can go fishing right down the way here. I'm like, dude, it's January and it's like 35 degrees. Where can we go fishing other than there's a canal, not a fishing canal, it's just a canal. And he goes, no, there's a pond. And I'm like, listen, I'll go wherever you say we go. So we go, and he's like, it's right in here. And it was an arcade. I mean, like a Wrigley, a 25-cent play video game arcade. I'm like, all right, you Aussie, you're really going to throw me a curveball here. Well, you walk into the arcade and you go downstairs into the basement, and there's a pond. There's like a pool where they have built, like a 2-foot high wall. They've lined it with plastic and they filled it up with water, and they've dyed the water so you can't see in it. And they've got carp and sturgeon in it. So you buy for 10 yen, maybe it was 10 yen or 100 yen. You get an hour's worth of fishing.
That's
So
cool.
here's me and Brooks, and it goes back to what we've been saying about enjoying the moment. It was cold. It was cold in this downstairs arcade area. It was probably like 35 degrees. So we're all bundled up. We have a rod, a little bobber, a little hair hook, and they give us what looked like a green ball of wasabi, but it was like dough. And you put it on and you put it in, and you're catching carp. But the prize, quote unquote, is the sturgeon. And if you catch the sturgeon, you get a picture up on the wall. You get all this notoriety. That's right. I caught the sturgeon.
Yeah.
Got all his sturgeon.
Yeah, it's like what was that movie with John Candy where you eat the 96er, the 96-ounce steak? And then
yeah.
Remember that movie?
I remember that movie.
Yeah,
Way too much meat.
it was way too much meat, and it's like you haven't eaten it all. There's the gristle.
And I remember he was like, oh.
But he ate it anyway. So I got my name up on the wall, or my picture of me in Japanese writing, and I caught this. That was my only sturgeon, and it was, I don't know, maybe 18 inches at the most.
Oh, we must break that for you. You must come here and you must experience this. I can do better than this,
Oh no, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was
Oh
good.
yeah, they're cute when they're that little.
Yeah, and then we got out, and it started snowing in Osaka. Just light flurries, and here I am with my friend John Brooks from Australia. Never seen snow before, so here it's snowing. So it was good to get it. It was, it was just an all around good day.
Yeah, absolutely. Snowing.
All around good day. So anyway, on that note, you guys hold on right here. I want to say thank you to everybody. But number one, I want to say thank you to Virginia and Zach. Thank you guys so much for joining the No BS World Tour. I greatly appreciate it. It was really good stories. Really good stories.
Yeah, well.
And anybody that's listening can go check them out at gatecrashers.com.
Gatecrasherfishing.com.
Gatecrashersfishing.com, and same thing on Instagram, or Unforgettable Virginia on Instagram.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it leads you all back to Gatecrasher fishing anyway. So either one.
There you go. So everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we will